Chapter 60, Bank's Performance Review. The best man's group on the man's side was speechless for a while. However, Yi Ping's expression was incomparably serious. In the end, Yi Ping called out to everyone and put down the door-breaking props in his hands. Honestly, he began the normalized process of courting. Stuffing red envelopes against the doorway. Come, stuff some red envelopes in first. Why so stingy? You can't even stuff a piece of red packet in these days? No, I haven't gotten it yet, more. Outside the room, once the best man group saw this situation, they could only helplessly take out another pile of red envelopes. Inside the house, there was a burst of laughter on the woman's side. Wang Lu saw that Yi Ping didn't tear down the door of his house anymore, and only then did he make his way back to the bed again. Listening to the lively energy outside the room, Wang Lu waved the small bushel fan in her hand and couldn't help but smile. Wei Xiao was not grabbing red envelopes in front of the living room door at this moment. Instead, he accompanied Wang Lu to stay inside the room. Wang Lu saw that the rest of the bridesmaids had all gone to grab it, and it was just Wei Xiao who was guarding here. Also couldn't help but say, "Why don't you go and grab it?" "Not grabbing, it's too crowded," Wei Xiao casually said. What he didn't say was that grabbing those red envelopes was just too much effort. And the current him, it was too late to spend money at this moment. Where else would he want to take advantage of this? When the last red envelopes of the groomsmen outside the door were emptied, the gate was opened this time. And the most hilarious part was finally here. The game before receiving the bride lasted for more than an hour. If it wasn't for master photographer's repeated reminders, Wei Xiao estimated that it could go straight to lunch. The best man's group, which was so majestic when they arrived, was no longer majestic at this moment. One by one, their faces were either painted with turtles, or they had changed into the exotic long dresses prepared by the woman's side. It can be said that 100 flowers blossomed and competed. The hardest part, I'm afraid, is to find wedding shoes. There was no way around it. The human bridesmaids tied the shoes to their thighs. A few groomsmen turned the house upside down and couldn't find them. It was only at the suggestion of one of the bridesmaids that the session was finally completed. Well, the price was that the groom temporarily pulled another FMS red envelope group. Sent 1,000 big red envelope. Wei Xiao also sort of saw what it means to earn money. Sure enough, there is nothing that money cannot solve. After Yi Ping put on Wang Lu's wedding shoes, he read a post-wedding pledge. It was only after the first half of the morning's welcoming that it finally came to an end. When they went downstairs, the crowd was in batches to take the elevator. Wei Xiao was the first batch with the bride and groom. The others in the elevator were all bridesmaids. The groomsmen couldn't squeeze in, so they naturally waited for the next batch. And there were still a lot of things to move. Wang Lu naturally wouldn't let her side help, so this kind of hard work was contracted by the men's side. But also let Wei Xiao happy leisure. "You guys will be in the wedding car in a while, why don't you follow behind?" Yi Ping looked thin and tall, but with a Wang Lu on his back, he looked very relaxed. "Our car should be enough." Yi Ping estimated that it should be about the same. Several bridesmaids also had no objections. But Wei Xiao came by car. So he took the initiative. "I drove, I'll go alone. I'll just follow the convoy." The convoy welcoming the bride was nothing more than a BMW convoy, and it wasn't even a top-of-the-line luxury car. Wei Xiao wasn't really disgracing Wang Lu's side. But Wang Lu was unaware of it. "What are you blindly coaxing? Can't you honestly sit in the car? And when did you buy the car?" Wang Lu has known Wei Xiao for so long and knows that Wei Xiao didn't buy a car before. This moment is also very curious and puzzled. Just a few days ago, Wei Xiao saw that there were many people and didn't intend to explain more. Wang Lu associated it with the other party winning the lottery and immediately understood in seconds. But this kind of thing, the crowded situation, is definitely not good to say more. "That's fine, drive yourself slowly. Don't lose them. Don't worry." Wei Xiao smiled. Without a moment's effort, the people all came down. Wei Xiao also found an excuse to take Yi Chen to fetch a car outside the neighborhood. However, the car was picked up by Yi Chen. Wei Xiao himself went straight to the bank. He refused to take the car and insisted on driving, naturally, in order to pick up the money. The share money hadn't been paid until now. Wei Xiao, who was carrying a shoulder bag, couldn't stop frowning once he entered the bank. It didn't occur to him that there were quite a lot of people this early in the morning. After thinking about it, Wei Xiao didn't queue up honestly, but headed to the VLP counter on the side. An uncle on the side saw this and immediately said, "Young man, that's the VLP counter. If you're doing business, it's better to line up." The uncle was being kind, thinking that Wei Xiao didn't understand the situation. But Wei Xiao smiled at him. "I'm just going to the VLP counter." "Huh?" With a confused look on his face, the uncle saw Wei Xiao come to the counter and opened his mouth. "Money withdrawal. Sir, for the business of withdrawing money, please bother to go to the normal counter and queue up for a number," the bank's receptionist said without lifting her head. They had to receive countless bank customers every day, so they naturally didn't have the time to pay attention to someone like Wei Xiao who looked like he didn't know anything. Otherwise, they wouldn't be too busy. In the face of this situation, Wei Xiao, however, lowered his head and came forward to repeat once again, "I want to withdraw money." The receptionist was an aunt in her 40s, and at this moment, she also finally looked up at Wei Xiao. "How much do you want to withdraw?" "Normal money withdrawal, ATM machines and regular counters will do." "This is for VLP business, this sir." Wei Xiao was straightforward. "I want to withdraw $1 million, normal counters can do it too." The receptionist froze, and the uncle who reminded Wei Xiao on the side also froze. But Wei Xiao's operation wasn't over yet. He removed the shoulder bag on his body and placed it on the counter. "Take 16 million and put it in the bag for me. Try to be quick, I still have things to do." As Wei Xiao spoke, he handed over his bank card. He had long since deposited the system's money in the card, making it convenient to withdraw it directly. The receptionist was stunned for a moment. She had seen many guests withdrawing money. However, she hadn't really seen many who withdrew $1 million in cash. Although this situation is not unheard of, but the chances of a few years may not be able to encounter a time. The receptionist auntie reacted immediately, realizing that this was a big customer. "Yes, sir. Just a moment, I'll ask the manager to come over and get the cash for you." "Still need the manager to come over personally?" "Sir, your amount is a bit large, so it might be a bit troublesome." What the receptionist didn't say was that Manager Zhao came over in addition to facilitating his work. There was also the intention of trying to sell Wei Xiao on their bank's bank card. This kind of big customer, often the deposits are extremely impressive. If they can exist in their bank, then they also have a track record. I didn't expect it, did I? Banks also have performance reviews. And not only in this regard, other than the monthly processing of a variety of special card types, customers to open the bank's cell phone app indicators. Anyway, it is very complicated and cumbersome, and there are many kinds. One can only say that banks these days also had to follow the trend, began the performance assessment of all aspects. Chapter 61: The Man's Dilemma. Wei Xiao didn't understand this, so he could only wait honestly. In fact, it wasn't just him, many ordinary people also didn't know about this. But without waiting for 2 minutes, the manager rushed over. "Hello, Mr. Wei. What a coincidence, my surname is also Wei, you can call me Manager Wei." Wei Xiao was slightly stunned. He didn't expect to meet his own family. This made him instinctively look twice more at the other party. "Hello, Manager Wei. I'm in a hurry over here, can I trouble you guys to hurry up?" "No problem, it'll only take a few minutes." Manager Wei was also very on the ball, arranging for his men to go and help fetch the money. He himself, on the other hand, was cozying up to Wei Xiao. "Mr. Wei, I see this card of yours, it seems to be an old card type. Our bank has recently launched the Platinum Dragon card, but it includes many favorable programs. Not only that, the Platinum Dragon card also has a variety of services such as advance reservations and not having to wait for a number. Look, why don't we upgrade this card for you?" Wei Xiao was also not clear about the difference here. However, looking at the human Wei manager's expectant gaze, he thought about it and nodded his head. "Okay, it will not be too long, right?" Won't, just a few minutes." Manager Wei marketed the top card type within the bank and was also very happy. He hurriedly chatted with Wei Xiao about something and something else, and initiated the time. The efficiency of the CCB was very fast, and after a few minutes, the money had been withdrawn. Along with it, the new card is also done. The new card is very high-end atmosphere, the whole body is white gold color, embroidered with a golden flying dragon. That is, it was good-looking, flashy, and very pushy. Wei Xiao was also quite satisfied. And at this moment, the people who came to do business in the bank. Looking at Wei Xiao's gaze was also very different. Young, handsome, and rich. Looks very good to talk to. The eyes of several Amazons looking at Wei Xiao began to glow red. Wei Xiao looked a little scared. It's true that money doesn't show. Next time I do this, I'll have to keep a low profile. After taking the backpack, Wei Xiao realized this $1 million, but really not light ah. At least 20 pounds to start with. As Wei Xiao carried the bag, a phrase suddenly came to his mind. Money, it really can smash people to death. Not more than a few steps out of the bank, Wei Xiao saw Yi Chen waiting by the side of the road. Brother, do you really want to go along with this much? Yi Chen was still a little bit sore. This can buy a suite in his hometown. If I don't follow this much, what am I taking it for? With those words, Wei Xiao brought the $20,000 that he had taken out of the ATM machine earlier from Yi Chen. Together with what he had now, it was exactly 18 million. Perfect. However, Yi Chen really couldn't sit still. Brother, you said you won $90 million before. But you bought a house that's more than $80 million, plus more than $8 million for furniture and stuff. You also said that you invested in some projects and bought this car again. Now the accompanying gifts are again $1 million to start with. This is also not enough ah. Yi Chen had long had this question. According to what Wei Xiao said, the lottery won $90 million. Then the house plus the decoration plus the car, how could it all be $90 million, right? But Wei Xiao also said that she had invested, and today she had a big gift with it. How do I look at it? The numbers don't add up. Listening to Yi Chen's question. Wei Xiao's heart has actually been prepared in advance. Actually, Xiao Chen, your brother, I did win more than $90 million. But, I actually won too. Won $90 million, too is a doubling. So relax, it's enough to spend. When Yi Chen heard this, he was dumbfounded. What the hell? $90 million lottery ticket, directly won too? In this instant, Yi Chen finally did understand why Wei Xiao was so unscrupulous and emboldened. Hoping for half a day, Wei Xiao still had half of the money on hand. But brother, it's not a good thing for you to keep spending like this. Yi Chen had a worried look on his face. Facing his brother's worry, Wei Xiao pulled out his B package. No, it's Plan B. Don't worry, little Sam. Didn't I say before that I invested in some industries? Those were Sunset Industries, and I spent more than $70 million. But who knows, after I invested, those industries started turning red. That is to say, just by investing in these stocks, your brother and I have already started to make a profit. Now the money, it can only be said that the more you spend, you don't have to worry. This was a countermeasure Wei Xiao had thought of long ago. In order to do so, it was to block the mouth of someone as close to his heart as Yi Chen. Otherwise, if he kept spending money like this but had no income, sooner or later, he would arouse the suspicion of his family. But now he said that the stocks he invested in started to skyrocket. Then Wei Xiao would have a reason to spend money anymore after that. After all, he was so capable of earning money, what's wrong with spending some money? Although Yi Chen believed a small part of it in his heart, most of it was still skeptical. But looking at Wei Xiao's serious face, and the other party's means of always being able to pull out money, Yi Chen's brows tightened and he couldn't help but tense up. Brother, you really won the lottery, right? It can't be because of anything else, right? That's for sure, I can't lie to you. This money is from the lottery, and the money afterward will be earned from stocks. This money comes from a peaceful place, there's absolutely no problem. Wei Xiao patted his chest and said with a serious face. It was only then that Yi Chen finally was convinced of Wei Xiao's bullshit and stopped saying more. Although his cousin's situation in recent times had changed somewhat. But over the 20 years that the two had known each other, Yi Chen still knew Wei Xiao very well. He was by no means the kind of person who would make black money. The car slowly started. Yi Chen was still immersed in Wei Xiao's legendary life. Wei Xiao, on the other hand, let out a long breath in his heart. Fortunately, he had prepared a backhand early. But when he thought of returning to his hometown, he was about to face the situation of his parents. Wei Xiao couldn't help but be distressed once again these days. It is really hard to do the job of fooling people. The next time in the morning, Wei Xiao took Yi Chen and first went to Yi Ping's home. Looking at Wang Lu's husband and wife, after honoring the tea. After that, he stayed there until more than 10 o'clock before setting off with the team again to the hotel at noon. The wedding was a whole day in total. The things in the morning were probably these. After lunch, the afternoon was free. Mostly, though, it was all about taking pictures. Wang Lu picked Hightower Park. Hightower Park stood on top of the 5th floor, and the whole body was dominated by girlish pink colors. Although Wang Lu was usually big-headed, she was extremely fond of the color pink. Along with that, the young people on both sides of the man and woman all followed to get together. Said to get together, in fact, to put it bluntly, is the woman's side, to see the man's side to make trouble. A man, the most embarrassing time in his life, there may be so many times but usually, will bring the day of marriage. For example, Yi Ping. This honest young man, under the backstabbing of a group of close friends. It could be said that the ugliness of a lifetime had been thrown away today. Wei Xiao looked at the groom with his stockings on and his face smeared with lipstick. Only felt that he did not want to get married in his life. Chapter 62. No need. Wei Xiao had a very fulfilling day. Thanks to the fact that he was on the woman's side, the groomsmen didn't make things too difficult for him. They mainly focused on the groom, Yi Ping. Under the lively atmosphere, time always passes exceptionally fast. Unconsciously, the sky was already a touch dusky. Wang Lu looked at the time and realized that it was almost 4 o'clock. Alright, it's almost time. Time to go to the hotel. Under Wang Lu's greeting, Yi Ping also finally ended this torturous time. There were a bit too many people, so everyone set off in groups of 3 or 5. Those who had cars drove, those who didn't took a taxi, and everyone quickly dispersed. Wei Xiao, on the other hand, took Yi Chen, as well as the 2 bridesmaids she knew, and set off together. But a few minutes later, the 2 girls, looking at the BMW car in front of them, they couldn't help but let their eyes shine and couldn't stop asking. Wei Xiao, when did you buy a car? Yeah, didn't you just work not more than a few months ago? I invested in some stocks a while ago and earned some money. Just buy a car. Wei Xiao casually made up a reason to cope. Yi Chen on the side watched for a while and rolled his eyes, but did not dare to say anything more. The 2 girls glanced at each other, both seeing disbelief in the other's eyes. However, Wei Zhao's relationship with the 2 was just that of an ordinary friend, far less than that between him and Wang Lu. Therefore, although the 2 girls didn't believe it, they didn't continue to pursue the matter. They only looked at Wei Xiao, who they hadn't seen in a few months. The eyes of the 2 of them also became not quite the same. At this moment, Wei Xiao not only looked much more handsome than before, even got rich. This made the young girl who was pregnant with spring instantly have many more thoughts in her heart. But Wei Xiao was not having any thoughts. He still had to hurry up and fix Yi Chen's life events. These were already enough of a headache for him. Where was the heart to engage in flirtations with these little girls? Driver Yi Chen drove the car in a flurry of 7 turns, and arrived at the hotel half an hour later. Hyatt Regency Hotel is worthy of being the top hotel in Magic City. Outside the door from time to time there are luxury cars passing, many people who look very successful in and out. It looked very high-end and atmospheric. After Wei Xiao got out of the car, he led a few people up the stairs. However, he had just taken less than 2 steps when his phone rang. You guys go up first, I'll take a call. Wei Xiao looked at the caller ID and had a headache as he said to several people. Supporting a few people, Wei Xiao found a quiet corner. After thinking about it, he pressed the connect button. A caller that could give Wei Xiao such a headache and nervousness. Other than his own mother, there was only one person left. Jiang Haining. But what was this woman doing calling herself again when she was fine? Wei Zhao's heart tightened for no reason, and an unsettling premonition surged through his brain almost instantly. Hello? Hello? Is it Mr. Wei? Kyoto, a suburb. A large number of staff members were incomparably busy working back and forth. They were holding professional camera equipment in their hands, dragging large and small wires back and forth. Several set workers were also rapidly building the last few scenes. And beside the temporary studio, Jiang Haining was draped in a white jacket, holding Vivian's cell phone in his hand, with a face of uneasiness and nervousness. Yesterday's events were as if they were still fresh in his mind, and his own out-of-control behavior as if he was crying in pain was as if it was right in front of his eyes. This made Zhang Haining, who was only in her 20s, listen to the beeping sound of the phone and couldn't help but blush. But when the phone was connected, she quickly transformed. Hello? Hello? Is it Mr. Wei? What's up? I have something I want to talk to you about. Recalling just now, the scene when he faced the editor-in-chief of the news of Beijing TV radio. Zhang Haining carefully said. I'm currently in Kyoto, filming the promotional video for A Strong Youth Makes a Strong Nation. On the other end of the phone. Wei Xiao couldn't help but freeze for a few seconds when she heard this. Isn't that quite good? It is quite good, but what? Zhang Haining took a deep breath and said seriously, the editor-in-chief asked me how I came up with that slogan, when the youth is strong, the country is strong. I remember you when I said that you didn't want people to know about you. Zhang Haining's gaze turned and thought of the conversation he had with Wei Xiao earlier. Immediately, he revealed a proud smile. So I told them that this slogan was thought up by a friend of mine. But I didn't tell him that that person was you. I did it right this time. Hyatt Hotel lobby. Wei Xiao, who was standing in the corner following the phone call, was instantly confused. It was only after a long time that he finally couldn't help but ask. Why didn't you say that it was your own idea? How can that be? That's what you came up with. You don't even know that those news editors-in-chief as well as the leaders of Beijing TV and radio. How favorably they viewed this slogan of yours. How could I have stolen your speech? Wei Xiao's eyes went black, and he barely managed to catch his breath. It was only after a long time that he finally calmed down silently. You're sure you haven't told anyone about me, right? No, absolutely not. You said you didn't want me to publicize your business to the public. I've always remembered that. Wei Zhao's heart finally felt better after hearing this. That's fine then, always remember. Keep it a secret. Zhang Haining thought that Wei Xiao was unwilling to be exposed to the spotlight and media. Immediately, he gave his reply. I will definitely not publicize your matter to the public. Having received Zhang Haining's repeated assurances. Only then did Wei Xiao blacken his face and said. That's good. I wish you a successful shoot. I still have things to do, so that's it. After saying that, Wei Xiao directly hung up the phone without waiting for Zhang Haining to reply. Listening to the beeping sound on the other end of the phone, Zhang Haining was lost for a while. She was still ready to take credit. After all, she did what Wei Xiao asked her to do this time. The human editor-in-chief had asked Zhang Haining several times, and she hadn't even said Wei Xiao's name. Well, Mr. Wei should be busy. Zhang Haining had a brainstorm and her mood turned back quite a bit along the way. Then she plunged back into the filming. Standing in the first-floor lobby of the hotel, Wei Xiao didn't react for a long time. Although Wei Xiao had long felt that Zhang Haining was a very troublesome person. But he still underestimated the other party's fighting strength. Originally, he thought that it was nothing for the other party to receive an invitation from Beijing TV radio and shoot a promo. As a result, one question from the human editor-in-chief nearly implicated him as well. Luckily, he had taken precautions in advance, otherwise he would have been exposed at this moment. Wei Xiao didn't want to get involved with these officials because he had too many secrets. I just want to spend money peacefully. But why, it always feels like. This world is so dangerous? Sir, are you alright? A middle-aged lady who happened to be waiting for someone in the lobby saw that Wei Xiao didn't react even after standing for half a day. Finally, she couldn't help but kindly go up and ask. Fine, thanks. Wei Xiao politely looked at the other party. Seeing this, the woman was about to leave. However, through the light, she was also finally able to see Wei Xiao's appearance for the first time. This glance made the woman's eyes suddenly burst with a different kind of luster. Sir, may I ask if you are interested in being a model or a trainee? Wei Xiao stalled, and an image of Zhang Haining suddenly popped up in his mind. No need. Chapter 63, Local Specialties. Sunli, the senior manager of the Star Scout Company. She appeared at the Hyatt Hotel today to receive a client. But by chance, she met Wei Xiao. With just this one glance, Sunli's heart had been left with the teenager's figure forever. Having been in the industry for many years, Sunli was quite confident in her vision. So she believed that as long as this teenager was willing to sign in her company, she would definitely have a way to promote the other party. That was why she asked that sentence. But what she never expected was that she had just asked. The result was rejected by the other party. And it wasn't even a polite rejection. Looking at Wei Xiao's bitter and hateful expression, for a moment, Sunli thought that she had said something wrong it shouldn't be. These days, there are still young people who don't want to be stars? Sunli was a bit puzzled, but looking at Wei Xiao's appearance, it didn't seem like she was lying. Because Wei Xiao's expression was angry. In fact, Wei Xiao was really angry. Don't reject it just yet. Sunli was still trying to salvage the situation, pulling out a business card and handing it over. Wei Xiao, however, didn't even intend to pick it up. No need. Wei Xiao repeated once again, turned his head and walked towards the third floor. Watching the teenager's sunny back gradually fade away, Sunli also froze. After a while, she sighed deeply. What a good seedling! Wei Xiao naturally refused to go and become a star. It was too late for him to spend money, and this kind of profession where he could earn money. Wei Xiao was not able to look at any of them. It's impossible to work part-time. It was impossible to work part-time in this life. Forcibly erasing Zhang Hanying's figure from his mind, Wei Xiao adjusted her mind and came to the third floor hall. The guests had already arrived one after another at this moment. Wei Xiao also quickly found Yi Chen. At this moment, Yi Chen was honestly sitting on a chair with a huge duffel bag on his back. It looked very comical. What are you doing? Guarding the bag. Yi Chen looked around as if he was a thief and said nervously. This is over $1 million. Wei Xiao laughed. There's surveillance here, what are you afraid of? No, I just have to guard it. Wei Xiao shook his head helplessly and followed with a laugh. Wouldn't you just go out with it directly? Could it be that you still plan to bring it back at night? Yi Chen complained. If you don't say it, how dare I? Yi Chen, who had just been punished for a week of sofa, was doing things at this time. It was a case of preferring not to do it, rather than making a mistake. Wei Xiao gave him a blank stare and led Yi Chen towards the table by the hall. There was the place responsible for accepting today's portion money. The one in charge of receiving the money was one of Wang Lu's cousins. A few years younger than Yi Chen, he was also quite nervous at this moment. Wang He? Wei Xiao looked at the other party and only half remembered what the other party's name was. Brother Wei. The two had met twice before, and Wang He immediately said happily. I've come to pay my share. Well, good, you give me the red envelope, I'll mark it down for you. Because there were too many people tonight, and some people didn't have the habit of writing their names on their red envelopes. In order not to confuse the issue of how many portions each person had accompanied, Wang He's job was to specifically register this. However, in the face of Wang He's words, Wei Xiao pulled over Yi Chen, who was on the side. This is my share. As Wei Xiao spoke, Yi Chen also finally removed the shoulder bag on his body that weighed more than 20 pounds. Pa! The backpack slammed onto the table with a muffled sound. Even the table shook with it. Wang He was also startled by this move. Brother Wei, you're... Wang He said bitterly. Don't joke with me, you're a local specialty, right? Well, that's right, a local specialty. Wei Xiao laughed. This is my share, just tell your sister about it later. Wang He's expression stiffened, but considering the relationship between the other party and his sister, Wang He could only honestly accept the bag. Alright, I'll mark it for you. As soon as Wang He took the backpack, he immediately felt the full weight of this. Brother Wei, you're quite heavy with this souvenir. Wang He was shocked and couldn't help but say. What the hell is this? You'll know if you take a look in a while. Wei Xiao said, while getting together and whispering. Remember, don't make too much of a fuss. There are too many people tonight, it's not good to be known. I'm very low-key. Wang He was said to be confused, thinking that this backpack of souvenirs was still so mysterious. If he didn't know the other party's identity, Wang He really thought that the other party was here to make trouble. After Wei Xiao finished her instructions, she turned around and left with Yi Chen. Only after seeing the two walk away did Wang He react. The curiosity in his heart surged up, and Wang He hurriedly opened his backpack to take a look. Again, just one glance. Wang Yi's eyes sank into the backpack and could no longer be pulled out. Brat, what are you gawking at if you're not working? As soon as Wang Lu, who had just finished working on dressing up, appeared in the hall, she saw the scene of her brother gawking there. This made her very dissatisfied. What are you looking at? Give me a look too. Sis. What's wrong you? After Wang Lu stepped forward, she saw that Wang Yi was still dumbfounded and couldn't help but frown. Let's see. Wang Lu didn't see the image of Wei Xiao coming over just now. At this moment, when she saw Wang Yi's disoriented appearance, she thought that the other party had been stimulated by something. Immediately, she walked over and came over to the backpack to take a look. 2 seconds later, the two siblings entered a petrified state together. This. Wang Lu looked at a backpack of banknotes, and the person went numb. Sis, this is the share that Brother Wei said he would give you alone. What the hell? This is Wei Xiao's share? Yeah, Brother Wei also said to let me keep a low profile, don't publicize it. Wang Lu sucked in a breath of cool air, associating it with the other party winning the lottery and the matter of changing the building for his wedding. A warmth flowed in his heart. Okay, put it away and watch it. You're not allowed to say anything about this to anyone today, and you're not allowed to say anything about it in the future. Or else I'll break your legs, understand? Understood. I won't say anything. Wang Yi was still unclear about what was going on, but he still understood his own sister's gaze that was full of killing intent. Wang Yi, who had grown up following Wang Lu since he was a child, naturally knew that his sister wasn't joking about. This woman is really capable of breaking his legs. And it's still the kind that after breaking it, she can still connect it up for him. Right at the same time that the two siblings were conversing, a voice also rang out at the right time. Xiaolu, congratulations. Hearing this voice, the warm current that surged in Wang Lu's heart instantly froze. She slowly turned around and looked at the woman in front of her, only to feel that everything was so unfamiliar. You came. Wang Lu's tone was very complicated. She didn't know whether she should feel sorry for the other party or feel sad, but Chen Shui obviously didn't feel that she had done anything wrong. Chen Shui, who was in a full dress, ran up with a smile like a flower, and gave Wang Lu a big hug as soon as she did so. Chapter 64: Decency Between Girlfriends. Before breaking up with Wei Xiao, Chen Shui and Wang Lu were also extremely close girlfriends. So Wang Lu did not choose not to invite Chen Shui even after learning about the news of their breakup. After all, the engagement drink, 2 months ago, had already been invited. At that moment, Wei Xiao still brought Chen Shui to attend. Wang Lu naturally had no reason not to inform Chen Shui. On the one hand, they are iron buddies, and on the other hand, they are good girlfriends. Wang Lu was in a very complicated mood. But this complexity didn't last long. Only a few seconds passed. Upon seeing an unfamiliar visitor dressed in a suit, followed by a smiling face, Wang Lu's face completely sank. Xiaolu, let me introduce you. This is my boyfriend, Zheng Feng. Chen Shui took Wang Lu's hand and happily introduced him. This is what I always tell you, my good girlfriend Wang Lu. Zheng Feng listened to the introduction and laughed. Hello, Zheng Feng. Looking at the other party's outstretched hand, Wang Lu took a deep breath. But how could she not reach out her hand? Seeing this, Chen Shui was also embarrassed and hurriedly said, Aya, Xiaolu was very shy. Alright, go sit down, I'll accompany her for a while. Chen Shui supported Zheng Feng and followed with a displeased face. You're really something too, why don't you ask me to be a bridesmaid when you get married? Also, that's someone's boyfriend, you give me some face, okay? Wang Lu looked at the somewhat unfamiliar Chen Shui in front of her, half a day before she said, You just broke up with Wei Xiao, and you found a new boyfriend so quickly? Chen Shui's face pulled down with a brush. You're getting married today, do you have to talk about those unpleasant things? Do you know what he's like now, Wei Xiao? The last time I went to his place to get something, he even lost his temper with me. It's been so long and he's still living in that shitty rental house. No upward mobility at all, no consideration for me at all. Chen Shui said. The more she thought about it, the more aggrieved she became, but Wang Lu just quietly looked at her. Until Chen Shui finished her words, Wang Lu said very calmly, I'm getting married today, I'm very busy. You are a guest, just eat the banquet well. Other than that, let's wait and talk about it later. The 4 years of college affection made Wang Lu still retain the last trace of decency. Seeing this, Chen Shui was not in a position to say more. After all, today was the other party's wedding, and it wasn't appropriate to talk about her. Alright, then you get busy first. When we turn around for the toast, the two of us will have another drink. After saying that, Chen Shui went to seek her new boyfriend. Wang Lu looked at the other party's beautiful back in a gorgeous outfit. Her thoughts could no longer go back to that time in college. Sister Chen Shui is so excessive. Although Wang Yi didn't know the specifics, he still knew about Wei Xiao and Chen Shui being together for many years. Seeing that the two had broken up just like that, Chen Shui even ran to the wedding with her new boyfriend. Wang Yi's heart also gave birth to some thoughts. Don't say anything you shouldn't. Wang Lu admonished his brother. Remember, don't say a single word about the share that Wei Xiao followed tonight. I know. Wei Xiao was quite busy at this moment. It was mainly because the 3 tables on the women's side, more than 90% of them were girls. And where he was, the table closest to the stage, was even more so because there were only 2 men, him and Yi Chen. 7 or 8 bridesmaids, either known or unknown, got together and were very lively. This moment's chatting content, moreover, 8 out of 10 sentences are related to him. Alas, you guys don't know, today Wei Xiao's car scared me a bit. What kind of car? BMW X7 series. I know this one, I looked online before. It costs more than $2 million on the ground. So expensive. My dad's car is only $1 million or so. The girls were chattering and their gazes towards Wei Xiao were getting hotter and hotter. If it wasn't for the consideration of the public forum, Wei Xiao would have been ready to run away at this moment. Most of these girls were from Magic City, but they were not very old. The concept of money was also quite vague. Plus, Wei Xiao's face value at this time is the most capable time, all the expensive clothes are extremely well dressed. For these young girls, Wei Xiao's lethality was simply no worse than that of some of the favorite beings. But from a certain perspective, it really wasn't hard for Wei Xiao to be a star after all. Just downstairs, there were talent scouts trying to discover him. Facing this group of gawking young girls, Wei Xiao once again felt the shamelessness of the system. He wasn't ugly in the first place, and had to rub off on his charm. This damn charm. Wei Xiao's small mind others had no way of knowing. But when Yi Chen caught a glimpse of Chen Shui walking to the next table from afar, the kid was a bit unable to sit still. Brother, come have a drink. HM? Why are you suddenly so enthusiastic? Nothing, just afraid you're thirsty. Bastard, rare. Wei Xiao took the mango juice before he could take a sip. One of the bridesmaids on the side who knew him spoke up. Isn't that Chen Shui? It's really Chen Shui. Huh, why isn't he at the table with you, Wei Xiao? When Wei Xiao heard the name Chen Shui, she immediately looked at Yi Chen on the side. Brother, I just wanted to ease the atmosphere. All right. Wei Xiao looked at Yi Chen, and the few bridesmaids on the side were already chattering once again. Who is Chen Shui? Yeah, never heard of it. The bridesmaids who didn't know the situation looked at each other for a while. The bridesmaids who knew Wei Xiao, on the other hand, hurriedly explained. Chen Shui is Wei Xiao's girlfriend. The two have been talking for years, their relationship is great. So it's Wei Xiao's girlfriend. A few bridesmaids with hot eyes for Wei Xiao were lost for a while, but they didn't know who suddenly spoke up more. How come that girl didn't come over? Why is there a guy next to her? When the crowd saw this, they immediately revealed a puzzled look and looked at Wei Xiao. I broke up with her. She's not my girlfriend anymore. Wei Xiao said casually without lifting his head, holding his cell phone. The girls at the table immediately had their minds surging. Broke up? Doesn't that mean that the Wei Xiao in front of them is still single? Why, breaking up is too normal these days. Yeah, I think the man that Chen Shui brought is just like that, greasy. I say Wei Xiao, don't take it too seriously, let bygones be bygones. The girls who knew and didn't know each other started to comfort Wei Xiao almost one-sidedly. But in the face of this image, Wei Xiao was incomparably casual. I also think it's good to split up. There's still a while before the banquet starts, I'll go to the restroom first. You guys chat. After saying that, Wei Xiao got up and left. Wei Xiao just plainly wanted to go to the restroom. However, Yi Chen, who was beside him, thought that Wei Xiao was in a bad mood. Brother, wait for me, go together. Wei Xiao looked back at this brother of his and frowned. How old are you? Why do you still like to go to the restroom in a group? Chapter 65, Blacklist Catalog. Chen Shui had actually seen Wei Xiao early on. The two tables were just a few meters away from each other, and the people were just those. Adding the fact that Wei Xiao was in the middle of a group of bridesmaids, it was a conspicuous sight. However, even after seeing it, Chen Shui still pretended to be calm and pretended not to see it. She was busy introducing her new boyfriend to the people she knew at her table. The atmosphere was quite cordial. But not long after, Chen Shui saw Wei Xiao get up. Moreover, he was still walking in his direction. This made Chen Shui instinctively thought that Wei Xiao was going to come over to pester her. So without even thinking, this woman took the lead. Didn't I tell you to not come? When Wei Xiao wanted to go to the restroom, he would inevitably pass by Chen Shui's table. This was because the restroom was on the south side, while his table was on the north side. This led to the fact that if he wanted to go to the restroom, he would have to almost cross half of the table to do so. But he never thought that his action of going to the restroom, since it could still attract Chen Shui. After looking around, Wei Xiao pointed at himself and said, "You're talking to me?" Chen Shui's face reddened with anger and said, "What did you think?" "Oh, sorry. What's the matter with you?" Faced with such an indifferent response from Wei Xiao, Chen Shui became even more irritated. "You walked over by yourself and you're asking me what's the matter? I told you before to not come to the wedding. Why did you still come?" Chen Shui's agitation was immediately detected by Zhang Feng beside her. "What's wrong, Snowy?" Zhang Feng looked at the situation in front of him with a perplexed face, unsure. However, the bridesmaids at Wei Xiao's table, as well as the guests at Chen Shui's table, yet they all had their ears perked up. Let's put it this way, as long as anyone present knew Chen Shui, they were bound to know Wei Xiao. Because most of Chen Shui's friends were known through Wei Xiao. So at this moment, seeing that the situation was a bit stiff, a few discerning people were also aware of some problems. Xu Ming, Wei Xiao's old classmate, is also an old man who witnessed Wei Xiao and Chen Shui's long run in love. Seeing the awkwardness of the situation, he immediately stood out and said, Okay, today people Wang Lu married it. Don't talk about it, I'll treat you to a drink." Although Wei Xiao and Xu Ming cannot be considered the best friend, but the two college is also a dormitory. The relationship is also good. Just after graduation everyone is busy. Only after graduation everyone was busy. "Alright, Xu Ming." Wei Xiao laughed. "I'm just going to the restroom." "All go on." Wei Xiao greeted the crowd as they did what they needed to do and turned around to leave. But Chen Shui started to get upset at this moment. "You still haven't answered me. Why did you come?" Xu Ming, who was a bystander, couldn't sit still when he heard this. He was at least Wei Xiao's friend, and without Wei Xiao's existence, he wouldn't have known such a person as Chen Shui. Seeing that Chen Shui was not relenting, Xu Ming immediately said, "Chen Shui, almost done. People Wei Xiao and Wang Lu have known each other since childhood. At that moment in Anshan City is hair small. No, Wei Xiao, you do not have the opportunity to recognize Wang Lu. Why not let people come to the wedding?" Xu Ming's righteousness immediately pointed the finger at Chen Shui. Many people's gazes towards Chen Shui also changed. However, Chen Shui was furious. "This is between me and Wei Xiao, what does it have to do with you, Xu Ming?" Xu Ming was also displeased at hearing this and was just about to open his mouth. Wei Xiao on the side, however, stopped Xu Ming. "Xu Ming, sit down," Wei Xiao said with a calm expression, but when Xu Ming looked into Wei Xiao's eyes, the words in his chest were immediately suppressed. This was because he could tell from Wei Xiao's gaze that there was no room for doubt. "I said, Chen Shui." After pacifying Xu Ming, Wei Xiao suddenly turned his head and looked straight at Chen Shui. "Who are you? Who are you to ask me to do things?" Chen Shui's tone stuttered, and she was just about to open her mouth. Wei Xiao then interrupted once again. "You cannot come if you don't want to make a scene. The problem is, who do you think you are? If you say for me not to come, I won't come? Be a man, don't think too highly of yourself." Wei Xiao's gaze sank as he said this. "Today Wang Lu is getting married, I don't want to argue with you. Don't add to people's newlywed couples' problems." Chen Shui's eyes reddened with anger. Seeing Wei Xiao using this never-before-seen tone and attitude, saying these words to herself, Chen Shui's entire body was furious for a while. Zheng Feng, who was on the side, was also unable to sit still. "You're Xiao Shui's ex-boyfriend, right?" Zheng Feng said with a cold smile on his face. "A man who bullies his ex-girlfriend so much. You're really something." Wei Xiao looked at this new boyfriend of Chen Shui and suddenly laughed. "I've finally seen it today, Shakespeare his nephew." Yi Chen looked confused and couldn't help but ask. "What do you mean?" Without waiting for Wei Xiao to explain, Zhu Ming on the side couldn't help but burst out laughing. Shakespeare his nephew, Jeanette Marsabit. For a while, the two tables that were watching the fun couldn't sit still. Laughter rose and fell, while Zheng Feng's face turned blue. "You fucking..." Zheng Feng said as he was about to charge up. But right at this moment, a scene that he never expected appeared. The table where Chen Shui was at, and Wei Xiao's acquaintances, that was not a few. In addition to Zhu Ming, there are 3 other men, are also Wei Xiao's former college classmates. At this moment, seeing the way Zheng Feng was about to make a move, Zhu Ming was the first to stand up. The rest of the men, including Yi Chen, were also ready to charge up with a face of fury. When Zheng Feng took a look at the opposite side of the situation, his aura instantly dissipated. Zheng Feng did not expect that the few people who had just been talking and laughing with him. Surprisingly, they sided with Wei Xiao in the blink of an eye. No wonder when he was just chatting, he felt that it didn't feel right. It turned out that these people, they were all old acquaintances with Wei Xiao. What's going on? Wei Xiao watched as Zhu Ming and the others jumped into action, and immediately persuaded these old classmates, "Come on, a society based on the rule of law, how can we still be so old-fashioned?" Wei Xiao went forward and gave these old classmates a cigarette. Following that, only then did he revert back to Chen Shui. "You didn't tell this new boyfriend of yours. I brought you to know almost everyone you know in Magic City?" Chen Shui lost her face, and her eyes towards Wei Xiao were even more filled with anger. Zheng Feng on the side was also on the verge of exploding, if it wasn't for the large number of people on Wei Xiao's side. He was afraid that he would have already gone up to compete with Wei Xiao. "Wei Xiao! It wasn't until today that I've really gotten to know you." As Chen Shui spoke, she looked at Wei Xiao resentfully and pulled her new boyfriend to sit down, but Zheng Feng was not happy. "Wei Xiao, right? I'll remember you." Zheng Feng's tone was incomparably gloomy. "I'll remember this debt today." Facing the other party's threat, Wei Xiao also gave the other party a deep look. At the same time, another person was added to that blacklist catalog in his heart. Blacklist, Zheng Feng. Then, Wei Xiao slowly looked at the two, his face indifferent. Chapter 66, Cherish Your Current Job. Wedding Banquet Hall, on the 2 tables in the north. Wei Xiao looked at the man and woman in front of her and slowly spoke. "By the way, that company you're in. It's called something like American Star International, right? A company from the country of me, with a branch in Magic City. Right?" Wei Xiao recalled the unit that Chen Shui was in and lit the cigarette in his hand. Turning back, Wei Xiao looked at Zheng Feng, who was filled with anger. "Zheng Feng, right? I remember you too." The smoke ring traced a zigzagging and winding trajectory under the bright light and rose into the air. "Today Wang Lu is getting married, I won't bother with you too. But after today, don't let me see you again, or I'll make sure you're in this city. Can't stay." Hearing Wei Xiao's words, Zheng Feng snorted. "With just you? A clerk working in a food processing company? What a big mouth." Wei Xiao ignored the other party's mockery and took a deep breath of smoke. 30 years east of the river, 30 years west of the river. Cherish the job in front of you. Perhaps, you won't be able to do it for much longer. After Wei Xiao finished speaking, he was ready to turn around and leave. Zheng Feng, however, continued to shout there without relenting. "I'll be waiting for you, hit worker." Wei Xiao did not continue to ignore the barking of the mad dog with Yi Chen in tow. He headed in the direction of the restroom. Zheng Feng smugly sat back in his seat. However, he realized that the gazes that the people at the table seemed to be looking at had all become very cold. It was also at this time that a few bridesmaids at Wei Zhao's table, also finally someone couldn't sit still. "Humph, you have no eyes, you chose such a man, but you're still quite proud." "Yeah, man, Wei Xiao is now investing all developed, certain people are afraid that they don't know it yet." Chen Shui had just stabilized her emotions when she suddenly heard this. Immediately tensed up. "What are you guys saying?" Who has eyes but no pearls? What do you guys know? Chen Shui, namely angry and unwilling, said. A bridesmaid who knew Wei Xiao took the initiative to stand up at this time. You don't know yet, do you? Man, Wei Xiao invested successfully and even bought a BMW 7 Series. He's the one who drove us here today. Thanks to you talking to people for so many years, you don't even know this. Zheng Feng didn't care about the other party in the slightest. Chen Shui, however, couldn't sit still. She didn't even know that Wei Xiao had made any investments. Even more so, she didn't know that Wei Xiao had bought a car of over $2 million. He bought a car? When did that happen? Chen Shui was shocked. Just a while ago, the car is still new. That leather seat, that styling. Luckily you're still Wei Xiao's ex-girlfriend. Chen Shui's brain buzzed. But when Zhang Feng heard this, he laughed coldly. 7 Series? Do you guys know how much that car costs? Landed at $2 million. A college graduate, what can you invest to make that much? It can't be a rented car. Chen Shui, who had just been shocked by Wei Xiao's car purchase. Hearing Zhang Feng's words, it was like grabbing a life-saving straw. That's right, do you guys know about Wei Xiao's what environment? Just talking like it's true here. He can barely pay his rent. The bridesmaids had also been looking at Zheng Feng and Chen Shui for a long time and immediately retorted. If you can't afford it yourself, everyone else can't? People, Wei Xiao is not happy to be bothered with you guys still stomped on your noses? Justice lies in the hearts of the people are doing, God is watching. Saying that people are renting cars, I think you guys are just saying that grapes are sour when you can't eat them. As the noise from both sides got worse, there were quite a few people around who cast their gazes. The scene was once very ugly. Wang Lu, who was far away in the other direction, also had to rush over at this time. What's going on? What's going on? What's the matter? This is to see that my big day is going too smoothly. As soon as Wang Lu, the officiating person, arrived, the bridesmaids and Chen Shui all hurriedly shut their mouths. The bridesmaids naturally wanted to give Wang Lu face. Chen Shui, on the other hand, did not want to make trouble with the one in front of her, one of her few close friends. Alright, all of you, speak less. Want to quarrel? Wait until you finish drinking my wedding wine today. After we leave the door, we can quarrel any way we want. Wang Lu's angry words completely dampened the fire between the two sides. Only after seeing the situation stabilize did Wang Lu plunge into her own affairs again. But before she could go far, Chen Shui followed her. That, Xiao Lu. What's wrong? I want to ask you something. Chen Shui wanted to say something, but that thought in her heart was climbing up. Chen Shui had been in love with Wei Xiao for several years, and she knew Wei Xiao better than anyone else. She didn't want to believe the words of those bridesmaids. Yet she couldn't deny it. Because Wei Xiao was a person who would never puff up his face. Wei Xiao, he really invested successfully. And bought a car? Wang Lu looked at her bosom friend in front of her with a complicated expression, and said only after a long time. How could you ask this? Didn't you all break up? Chen Shui gritted her teeth and firmly said. I just want to know, I hope you can tell me. Other than that, I won't ask much. But as far as this question is concerned, I hope you can tell me the real answer. Wang Lu pondered for 2 seconds. Followed by calmly saying. He did buy a car. In addition, the venue for my wedding today was also something he spent money on and found. It was only changed from the 2nd floor to the 3rd floor. Chen Shui was like a bolt from the blue for a moment and froze. You mean, the one you asked in the group? The person who helped you change the wedding venue? Is it actually Wei Xiao? Well, it's him. Wang Lu stepped forward and patted Chen Shui's shoulder, faintly saying. You shouldn't think too much either. I'm getting married today and really have a lot of things to do. I won't accompany you. After saying that, Wang Lu withdrew her hand and went to get busy without looking back. In an instant, Chen Shui understood. It turned out that those bridesmaids' words were all true. But why, when she was with Wei Xiao, wasn't she like this? During Chen Shui's lost in thought, Zheng Feng finally walked over. What's wrong? What was said? Zheng Feng looked at Chen Shui's lost in thought that she was angry because of Wei Xiao's matter. Recalling what Chen Shui had said to him earlier, those bad words about Wei Xiao. Zheng Feng couldn't help but feel another burst of anger in his heart. A man like that, what are you still thinking about him for? Obviously all poor and dying, but you still have to rent a car to fill up the facade. And said that about you today. Being able to stay away from him is the best choice for you. Don't be sad, you still have me. Zhang Feng said warm words, but Chen Shui still didn't respond. I want to go to the restroom. Chen Shui pushed away Zhang Feng's hand that he was holding and walked away with a complicated expression. Zhang Feng let out a sigh and did not say anything more. In his opinion, Chen Shui just still needed time to digest it. A few minutes later, in front of the restroom on the third floor of the hotel. As soon as Wei Xiao walked out, he saw Chen Shui who had long been waiting there. Slightly stunned, without looking back, Wei Xiao walked towards the lobby. But behind him, Chen Shui's voice sounded once again. Chapter 67, The Wedding in Progress. Wei Xiao didn't expect that he had just left the restroom and ran into Chen Shui head-on. Well, there was only one restroom on the third floor of the hotel. With men on the left and women on the right, it was normal for Wei Xiao to bump into her as soon as she came out. However, Wei Xiao just glanced at it, turned around and left. He felt that he had nothing to say to this woman. But Chen Shui called out to him. Why didn't you tell me? When Wei Xiao heard this, he didn't stay on his feet at all. Turning around, he walked towards the bustling hall outside. For a time, outside the restroom, there was only Chen Shui left, standing stupidly in front of the mirror. Chen Shui looked in the mirror, at her own exquisite makeup, as well as her gorgeous clothes. In her heart, however, she couldn't help but give birth to a question. Things, how did it come to this? Why, when he was with me in the beginning? Is that so ordinary? Why, after he broke up with himself? It's like he's a different person? The man who seemed like he would never leave, how come he left himself? The more Chen Shui thought about it, the more she couldn't understand it, and a figure popped up in her head. A silhouette with a duck-tongued cap on her head, large sunglasses, and a mask. It must be that woman, it must be because Wei Xiao is with that woman. Chen Shui thought hysterically, the more she thought, the more certain she became. Otherwise, how could Wei Xiao become so desperate? It must be that day, when she went to Wei Xiao's house to pack up her things, she saw that woman. There's definitely a situation between Wei Xiao and her. It must be a situation. It must be. Chen Shui, who was forcibly looking for a remedy, seemed to have a direction once again. Although she didn't know why she needed a direction. Wei Xiao wasn't clear about Chen Shui's mental condition. He wasn't interested either. But when he came back, he passed by Chen Shui's table. Once again, Wei Xiao saw Zhang Feng's gloomy gaze coldly scanning the other party. Wei Xiao resumed his position. At this moment, the guests had also arrived one after another. The wedding, too, was about to begin. A few minutes later, underneath the interesting and unobtrusive speech of the master of ceremonies, Lu Feng, the entire prelude to the wedding gave all the guests a feeling like a spring breeze. Only what Wei Xiao didn't know was that this master of ceremonies was actually very famous. Lu Feng is the gold medal MC of the Hyatt Hotel, and the weddings he hosts are all big scenes. This is naturally the connections of the person, Mr. Huang. Although Mr. Huang just sent someone to make a phone call. But for the Hyatt Regency Hotel side, that is simply a top priority. Not only change the floor, including the master of ceremonies, the chef of the meal is also specially instructed. Under the control of the MC, Wang Lu wore a white wedding dress, in the symphony. Step by step, she stepped into the red carpet that led to the marriage hall. Beside Wang Lu was her father. Wang's father held his daughter's hand and walked through this not too long. And yet, it seemed like a lifelong journey. The music was playing slowly, and Wang Lu's eyes were foggy at some point. The MC Lu Feng's magnetic voice slowly sounded. The father and daughter in front of us, they have spent 23 years together. And today, as a father, he will also witness his favorite daughter starting a new life of her own, creating a new family. The father's eyes are full of reluctance, yet full of love. Just like the day he first met Ms. Wang Lu and descended into this world. In a blink of an eye, time passes, and the baby who could only wail and cry has grown into an adult. But in her father's heart, she will always be just a child. The words of the master of ceremonies, Lu Feng, accompanied the father and daughter to the groom. Now, the father will entrust his daughter's hand to another man. This is a trust, a trust. And for the groom, this is even more of a responsibility. Wang's father held his daughter's hand to the microphone brought over by the MC Lu Feng. He was just about to speak, but he was already a little choked up. When he tried to speak again, tears had blocked all of his father's words. And Wang Lu was no longer the strong image she used to be, hugging her father and crying into a tearful person. Wei Xiao was on the stage, watching this touching scene. His heart and soul followed a stirring. After half a minute, the father and daughter finally adjusted their emotions. But under the stage, there were already many people with red eyes. Lu Feng passed the microphone in front of Wang's father, signaling him to say something. This time, Father Wang finally restrained his emotions and slowly said, "Just now when I took my daughter to walk the red carpet, it reminded me of the first time I held her hand. That was in the hospital. That year, it was the winter of 1998. I held her hand and walked out into the world. Came into our family and watched her learn and grow. Marriage is not 1 + 1 is equal to 2, but 0. 5 + 0. 5 = 1. When you get married, you both have to remove half of your personalities each to make a beautiful family. Marriage is not possession, but union. Finally, I want to say this. Yi Ping is a child I love. I'm leaving my daughter in your hands. I hope you can take good care of Xiaolu. Don't let her be wronged. She's a child that can't be wronged since she was a child." Speaking of this, Wang's father broke down once again. It was hard to imagine that a father would cry like this at his daughter's wedding. However, everyone present was deeply infected. Yi Ping was also red-eyed with a flurry of assurances that he would definitely give Wang Lu happiness. It was only after this touching scene that it was finally slowly revealed swear to each other, wear each other's rings, kiss each other. The most beautiful picture in the world is perhaps none other than this. The main headline scene took a full 10 minutes. Then, only then did the process of everyone going their own way begin. Simply put, it was time to eat. Boston lobster, king crab, Masai bisque, abalone. I can't say the meal at the Hyatt Regency was gorgeous. Let's just say it was gorgeous. Of course, this was all being specially greeted. Otherwise on Wang Lu and Yi Ping's little budget. This wedding banquet could have put the two of them on the verge of bankruptcy. This, too, was naturally due to General Manager Huang. Wei Xiao looked at this table of magnificent food and also vaguely guessed the reason. Because it was impossible for Wang Lu to order such a luxurious meal. After silently thanking General Manager Huang in his heart, Wei Xiao also began to taste it. As for those bridesmaids who usually couldn't eat these, then they were a bit dazzled. What girl doesn't love to eat? But looking at Wei Xiao's slow and methodical appearance. The bridesmaids, too, could only put away their temperament, and the ladies generally had a shallow taste. But the group of girls put up with it. You guys eat, don't be polite. Wei Xiao looked at the whole table. On their own table most cannot let go. Immediately took the initiative. Who knew that the bridesmaids on the table were all smiling faintly? We eat less. Yes, we don't dare to eat too much at night. Seeing this, Wei Xiao couldn't say much. However, girls nowadays can be really particular. If this was Wang Lu's turn, then she would definitely roll up her sleeves and start the whole thing. While Wei Xiao was eating happily. On the stage, the game was also going on. However, the MC, Lu Feng, swept over the crowd below from time to time. It seemed to be looking for something. Chapter 68, Are You Marrying Me Today? Lu Feng had come with a mission today, or rather, the entire Hyatt was under the boss's sentence. It was thrown into a kind of inexplicable tension. Because just yesterday, their boss received a call from Mr. Huang. Following that, there was the matter of purposely changing the venue, the MC, and the chef, etc. For Wang Lu. And the boss, Zhong Hai, learned a message. A news of why General Manager Huang would specially take care of this couple. Recalling yesterday, the words that Mr. Zhong had said to himself. Lu Feng couldn't help but fall into memories. Little Lu, you'll officiate that wedding tomorrow night. Remember, there's a very important person inside that wedding. You find an opportunity and make sure to find the person. Lu Feng had a surprised look on his face. But, Mr. Zhong, the person you're talking about, who exactly is it? Wasn't it Mr. Huang who called? Zhong Hai shook his head. I've asked, and Mr. Huang doesn't know that young couple. It was a young man he holds in high regard who mentioned it. That's why Mr. Huang made a special effort to stand in for someone and made this call to me. Lu Feng had also met Mr. Huang twice, and was well aware of what a noble person he was. This also made him more and more curious. Who has such a big face? Zhang Hai sighed. I don't know, I just know it's a young lad. Also, he's a particularly good friend of the bride. Remember, you must find out who that young man really is. Understood. Thinking back to that look on Chief Zhong's face at that time, Lu Feng knew that if he didn't find out who that young man was today, he would definitely not be able to deliver. Fortunately, before the wedding started, he had already inquired. The bride, Wang Lu, seems to have only one particularly good male friend. Seems to be surnamed Way to Come. Lu Feng early had an idea, this moment to see the atmosphere enough. Immediately took out the setup he had thought of. Next, I wish to have a friend from the female bride side. Come up and cooperate with me to complete a song. Considering the difficulty of the song, as well as the requirements. This friend must be male. Lu Feng pretended to be unaware of the situation and asked on the bride Wan Lu's side. Why don't the bride recommend one for me? The kind of relationship has to be especially good to be okay. Wan Lu also did not anticipate this scene and subconsciously looked in Wei Xiao's direction. Wei Xiao, at this moment, was eating. Wei Xiao, go up to work. Wei Xiao. The moment Lu Feng heard this name, his entire body was energized. It was this Wei Xiao. Off stage, Wei Xiao was eating happily. Suddenly being named by Wang Lu, he was actually still a bit confused. What's wrong? Wei Xiao looked back, only to realize that he had become the center of attention of the entire audience. Brother, they asked you to go up and sing a song together. Yi Chen had been paying attention to the scene and immediately reminded, what the hell? What's the point of singing a song properly? Wei Xiao had a puzzled look on his face, but he couldn't stop Wang Lu from shouting once again. Go up when you're told to go up, why are you so abrasive? Wei Xiao let out a long sigh and silently got up and walked towards the stage. People Wang Lu married, he still had to give this face. For a while, the lighting technician on the third floor of the Hyatt Regency Hotel immediately hit the lights on Wei Xiao. What a handsome little brother! Lu Feng, who was about to turn 30, couldn't help but praise Wei Xiao in his heart as he looked at the handsome Wei Xiao in front of him. At the same time, his heart became more and more certain that what he was looking for. The probability was that it was this person in front of him. Come, sir. Wei Xiao was pulled by Lu Feng's arm and came to the center of the stage with a bewildered face. Today, the two newlyweds are getting married. Brothers are not talented, and they can barely hold their own in singing. So I wish to give the two newlyweds a song. This little brother, your name is Wei Xiao, right? Wei Xiao could only nod. Right. Just as Wei Xiao was pulled up to the center of the stage. In a remote corner on the third floor of the Hyatt Hotel. A lobby manager who was always ringing the place saw that Lu Feng had really found someone. Immediately, he jogged and headed in the direction of the 17th floor. He, along with Lu Feng, had both received instructions just as long ago. Once the target is found. No, it is the person who has been found. Zhong Hai must be notified immediately. Hyatt Hotel has a total of 17 floors. And on the 17th floor, it was also the office as well as the rest area of their old boss. A few minutes later, the lobby manager was finally in the office on the 17th floor, meeting his boss Mr. Zhong, we've found him. Zhong Hai, who was looking at the financial statement. He was still a bit dissatisfied with the other party's sudden interruption, but once he heard this, he hurriedly threw down the information in his hand and stood up violently. Take me over. Zhong Hai said with an eager and surprised look. On the third floor of the Hyatt Hotel, on the stage. Lu Feng had long ago picked out the song, Today You Will Marry Me. It was a love song sung by a male and female duet. However, Lu Feng had purposely specified that the other person had to be a man. After all, this was what made the program effective. Two men singing a love song, what a show! Of course, besides the program effect, he was mainly there to find out Wei Xiao. But when Lu Feng suggested that Wei Xiao should sing the girl's part, Wei Xiao, who had always been quite reluctant to go on stage, it became even more reluctant. I'm against it, why am I singing the girls? I want to sing the boys. Lu Feng also didn't expect that Wei Xiao was so uncooperative. But considering the other party's identity. Okay. Once he thought of Mr. Huang behind Wei Xiao, Lu Feng immediately lost his nerve. Since the other party is unwilling, it looks like it can only be on his own. However, the perennial experience still made Lu Feng ask habitually. Everyone here, do you want me to sing girls, or this little brother to sing girls? With Lu Feng's experience. Usually, he asked this. The guests, in order to be a bit more funny, would have the guests sing girls more. Because that's what makes it fun. Who wanted to see him, the MC, live the whole job? Then he can say he'll sing the girls' part. And then, as a matter of course, he could sell Wei Xiao a favor. The result wasn't that bad. But tonight, Lu Feng made a mistake. The guests present, at the moment Lu Feng asked the question, looked at Wei Xiao. Under the lights, Wei Xiao in a gown. It was called a bright-eyed and glittering. From 70-year-old grandmothers down to 3-year-old little girls. Subconsciously, they stood on Wei Xiao's side. Look at the MC singing about girls. The closest, Wei Xiao's table. A group of bridesmaids stood up and shouted at the top of their voices. How could such a handsome little brother sing about girls? That definitely wouldn't work. It wasn't just the group of bridesmaids. More than 90% of the women on the scene were shouting out the same words. Look at the ushers singing girls. The men looked at their female companions, girlfriends, and wives. Chose to surrender one after another. In a flash, the entire hall was actually a lopsided verbal vote. Lu Feng was a bit dumbfounded, because the situation in front of him was different from what he expected. But now the guests were so lopsided. In that case, wouldn't the favor not be sold? But Lu Feng wasn't surprised for too long and accepted the result. The sale was not a favor. Well, since everyone is looking forward to it so much, then I'll come and be a lady for a while. Lu Feng said with a fake bitter smile. The laughter immediately rose in all directions, and Lu Feng was also looking for a microphone for Wei Xiao. But as soon as the music turned on, Wei Xiao froze. Because this song, Today You Will Marry Me, and the one he knew. The tune was different. This world song, and the one he remembered, except for the name. It was not the same thing at all. Chapter 69, Who's This Singing? Sun Li did not expect that today's meeting would go so smoothly. The customer didn't even eat dinner before signing a contract with her. And the other party even left early after signing the contract because of personal circumstances. This made Sun Li's intentions for the latter part of the evening all fall through. Ding dong! Hearing the beep of the elevator door ring out, Sun Li immediately walked forward. But before she could take 2 steps out, the image in front of her. Sun Li couldn't help but say in surprise. Mr. Zhong. Zhong Hai heard someone calling him and raised his eyes to look. It turned out to be an old friend from the entertainment industry. Manager's son? Why are you here? Zhong Hai was surprised. I came to your hotel, naturally to meet clients for dinner. Sun Li said with a smiling face. But because of some circumstances, things have been talked over. How have you been lately, Mr. Zhong? Not too bad, just like that. Well, it just so happens that I have nothing to do tonight. Why don't we have dinner together and chat? Sun Li said with an expectant face. The Huamei Transmission Entertainment that Sun Li worked for had some dealings with Zhong Hai. When their company first went public, Zhong Hai had invested a few tens of millions of dollars into it. More or less a shareholder. Only Zhong Hai's business is still mainly in the hotel and resort area. So even after investing in their company, Zhong Hai has been paying little attention. Now just happened to run into, Sun Li naturally want to bring the feelings between the two sides closer. But what Sun Li didn't expect was Zhong Hai flatly rejected it. Sorry, manager's son. I still have something to do in a while. I have to meet someone. I'm afraid it's not convenient tonight, next time. Hearing this, Sun Li wasn't angry and immediately said, Okay, I'll call you next time. Make an appointment for you in advance. Zhong Hai smiled as a response. Ding dong. The elevator door slowly closed. Currently displaying floor 13 target floor. Third floor. Third floor lobby. Lu Feng sang his heart out. But Wei Xiao was not very familiar with the song in front of her. In his own memories of crossing over, he was not in the habit of listening to songs. So he hadn't heard this song at all. How could this be sung? It wasn't long before Lu Feng's passage ended. Everyone's gazes, all of a sudden, turned to Wei Xiao. Looking at the many guests on stage, Wei Xiao only felt a duck's nest. The music slowly went through 2 lines. Wang Lu saw that Wei Xiao was not venturing out with a single word, and immediately became enraged. Why don't you sing, Wei Xiao? What are you fuming about? In the heat of the moment, Wei Xiao was forced to do nothing. It could only be recalling the song from his memory. Slowly opened his voice. How to put it, Wei Xiao's voice wasn't bad. But compared to a professional one, it was definitely quite a bit worse. However, the moment Wei Xiao opened her mouth, the hall froze. It was because the song Wei Xiao sang, they had never heard of it at all. The blossoms of spring take away the winter's sentimentality. The breeze blows in the breath of romance. Wei Xiao's singing voice was soothing and light. The audience under the stage was mesmerized for a moment. Although none of them had heard the song before. But all of them, however, felt surprisingly unified. It was very good to listen to. Off stage, Wang Lu, who was busy making a toast, was completely dumbfounded. He was letting Wei Xiao sing. But she did not expect, Wei Xiao sang was not even the song that the MC Lu Feng said. This brat, where did he hear the song from? It's pretty good. Wang Lu couldn't help but whisper in her heart. At the same time, Lu Feng, who was standing next to Wei Xiao, was also frozen. As a qualified MC, he didn't dare to say that he knew everything about the songs that were suitable to sing when getting married, right? But mostly, he still knew all of them. But the song Wei Xiao sang, he really hadn't heard it before. Could it be a newly released song? Or a cold song? Lu Feng's heart was in a state of reckoning, and he planned to go back and look for it and under the stage, the table where Chen Shui was. Chen Shui looked at the starry-eyed Wei Xiao on stage. That handsome look, dashing posture, and marvelous singing voice. Chen Shui was once again confused. The two had been together for many years, and she had never known. Wei Xiao's singing was surprisingly so good. In Chen Shui's impression, the usual Wei Xiao didn't even like listening to music. Why didn't he feel? He was so talented and handsome. Chen Shui gazed at the figure on the stage in fascination. In her heart, however, she began to feel a vague pain. In front of the elevator on the 3rd floor, the hotel manager followed Zhong Hai out first. Take care then, get together again sometime. Zhong Hai politely said to Sun Li inside the elevator. Hearing this, Sun Li also smiled politely. She naturally knew that this was just polite words, so Sun Li didn't intend to dwell on it and went forward, ready to press the elevator button. But just at this moment, a singing voice came from far away. With just one ear, Sun Li's finger that was pressing the button, it was frozen in place. Eh? Zhong Hai, who was out of the elevator door, heard it even more clearly. Who is this singing? Zhong Hai asked with a frown. He remembered that he had arranged for Lu Feng to officiate this wedding. The hotel manager at the side immediately explained. It's that Mr. Wei Xiao. Mr. Huang's friend. How can you let someone sing? What is Lu Feng doing? Mr. Zheng. That's how Lu Feng found that gentleman. Because Sun Li had been there on the elevator, the manager didn't have time to explain this to Zhong Hai. However, Zhong Hai was also an old man and understood what was going on with just a thought. Well done. Zhong Hai, who was slightly disgruntled a second ago, was already all smiles at this moment, and the hotel manager also wiped his cold sweat. That. At some point, Sun Li had also walked out of the elevator and came in front of the two. Manager's son? Zhong Hai looked at Sun Li suspiciously. You are? It's like this. Sun Li, still recalling the song coming from the distance, said stiffly. You know the man who sings? Sort of know him. Zhong Hai preemptively said. Can you introduce me? Sun Li's eyes lit up and immediately said. But Zhong Hai was a little less happy. Manager's son, I'm afraid that's not very appropriate, right? When Sun Li heard this, she quickly explained. No, you've misunderstood, Mr. Zhong. I just heard that this song is good and wanted to ask if it was released yet. If it hasn't, I hope you can bring me to meet the singer. I wish to buy this song." As the manager of an entertainment company, Sun Li was keenly aware of it. This song, it seemed, was not famous. Although it was good, she had never heard of it. So, she wanted to give it a try, maybe she could pick up a leak. This kind of thing, Sun Li had done it many times before, and had become quite a lot of the many famous songs currently circulating in China. There were two that Sun Li had picked up through such a method. Pick up the leaks picked up. Sun Li is very confident in her vision, which is under the success of years and years. The confidence she has accumulated. But who knows, Sun Li's words. But made Zhong Hai even more confused. Didn't she say that this Wei Xiao is Mr. Huang's friend? How could he be a singer? And it was still one that could make Sun Li like this. A singer that a top agent, with the manager of an entertainment company, would look at? Chapter 70, The Master of Ceremonies Tactics. Facing Sun Li's sincere gaze, Zhong Hai thought about it and didn't refuse. "I can take you there with me. But I hope, Manager Sun, you can hold the degree well." What Zhong Hai said wasn't exactly nice, but it was also considered pertinent. After all, the two men's class, both of them were not on the same level. If Zhong Hai was party A, then Sun Li might not even be considered a party B. At best, she was a party C. So after hearing that Zhong Hai didn't reject herself, Sun Li also wasn't angry at all. Instead, she revealed a big smile. "Of course, I've always been very measured." Zhong Hai nodded and led Sun Li towards the hall. And at this time, the singing gradually subsided. "Listen to me, hand in hand walk with me. Live a stable life. Yesterday is too late, tomorrow will be a pity. Today you will marry me." Wei Xiao sang the last line with a stiff upper lip, followed by a long sigh. The promised love song duet. But when it came to the back, Lu Feng simply put down the microphone. It was as if Lu Feng was singing something he had never heard of and couldn't sing what Wei Xiao sang. Lu Feng hadn't heard and couldn't sing either. So Lu Feng can only watch Wei Xiao begin his own personal show. However, what Wei Xiao did not expect was, when he finished singing the last line, only after 2 seconds, the applause from the stage began to thunderously surge. Especially the table where Wei Xiao was. The beautiful bridesmaids at the table stood up and clapped desperately. Yi Chen was even happier with a red face. Even at Chen Shui's table, many people stood up. For example, Zhu Ming, such as several other of his old classmates. In addition, besides these ones who were close by, almost all of the women on the entire third-floor wedding banquet hall stood up. Even the male compatriots followed suit and applauded. Facing the guest's love, Wei Xiao smiled. "Brat, it's okay." Wang Lu just shouted at the stage. "Why didn't I notice before that you brat still has the talent to be a star?" Wang Lu's words immediately caused the guests present to agree. Yes, if little handsome boy goes to be a star, he must have a lot of fans. A certain 50-year-old older woman shouted. "If little brother goes to be a singer, I'll be the first to go and support." A certain 20-year-old young lady shouted loudly. "This uncle, look at him." A certain 5-year-old little girl babbled. Faced with such a scene, Wei Xiao couldn't sit still either. Immediately explaining. "Fluke, fluke, fluke. I'll go down without me." Wei Xiao's latter sentence was addressed to Wang Lu. "Go, go, go. Good job today, it's kind of giving me a facelift." Wang Lu was also very happy. After all, Wei Xiao and her were iron buddies. But while Wei Xiao wanted to go, someone else was not happy. Just as Wei Xiao had won the applause of the audience, Lu Feng was far away and saw his boss appearing at the edge of the hall. The boss had really come. And more than that, looking at the way Wei Xiao was about to get off the stage, Zhong Hai immediately turned to Lu Feng from afar and made a head-shaking gesture. This caused Lu Feng's mind to turn suddenly for a moment, pondering over his boss's intentions. The boss is letting himself control Wei Xiao and not letting the other party step down. What kind of person was Lu Feng? Thoughts whirled around, and immediately had an eyebrow. Since Zhong Hai had come, he definitely wanted to meet Wei Xiao. And Lu Feng was aware of this person, Mr. Huang. At the same time, he also knew that Zhong Hai had always wanted to have a further relationship and cooperation with Mr. Huang in these years. However, since the previous years, after that one failed investment, Mr. Huang's attitude towards Zhong Hai. It wasn't so hot anymore. Now, Wei Xiao and Mr. Huang have a very good relationship, and even Mr. Huang also for Wei Xiao. He specially gave a call to Zhong Hai, who hadn't contacted him for a long time, to say hello. This shows how special the relationship between Wei Xiao and General Manager Huang is. Zhong Hai is bound to hope that through Wei Xiao, he can once again draw closer to Mr. Huang. Coincidentally, tonight, Zhong Hai was kind of on the ball for Wan Lu's wedding. Wasn't this a great opportunity to sell a favor? Within a few seconds, Lu Feng had already cleared his thoughts. He had to find a reason to keep Wei Xiao on stage. And then call his boss up. This way, Zhong Hai would also have the opportunity to sit this favor out. Lu Feng had a decision in his heart and immediately laughed. Why, this little brother is also too hasty. Wei Xiao was slightly surprised in her heart, not knowing what else was going on. Just then, Lu Feng but turned up the volume. Suddenly, he said to the many guests on stage. Is everyone still satisfied with today's meal? The guests at the wedding banquet were unsure, but still immediately said frankly satisfied. Jokingly, the drinks plus the meals for each table had to start at a small several tens of thousands of dollars. It would be strange to not be satisfied. Lu Feng immediately took the opportunity to add. In fact, for this wedding today, there are two people who have silently put in a lot of effort behind the scenes. One is the owner of our Hyatt Hotel. After he learned of the wedding between Miss Wang Lu and Mr. Yi Ping, which will be held at our hotel, was also heartily delighted. For this reason, my boss, Mr. Zhong Hai, has specially changed the organization of the wedding from the second floor to the third floor. And all the meals have been handed over to our hotel chef for personal attention, in order to be able to send a most sincere blessing to the two newlyweds. I wonder, Miss Wang Lu and Mr. Yi Ping, are you still satisfied? Lu Feng suddenly turned his head and looked at the newlyweds who were looking confused at this moment. Wan Lu and Yi Ping were both a little confused at this moment. On the one hand, it was because they weren't sure why Lu Feng suddenly said this. On the other hand, it was because the two only knew that it was Wei Xiao who had found the person who changed the floor as well as the catering and the master of ceremonies. But they didn't even know that what Wei Xiao had found was actually the owner of the Hyatt Hotel. This was a truly rich and wealthy person. When did Wei Xiao's level become so high? Wang Lu was puzzled in her heart, but on her face, she was still grateful. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhong, for doing this for the two of us. Lu Feng, however, laughed. In fact, the owner of our Hyatt Hotel is also here today. Right in the lobby. For a moment, although the guests were surprised, they still couldn't help but turn their heads to look. As a result, they immediately discovered Zhong Hai's several people standing at the edge position. Wang Lu and Yi Ping immediately greeted them. Following that, they invited Zhong Hai to the stage, hoping to thank him in public. Thank you very much, Mr. Zhong Hai. Mr. and Mrs. Wang Lu hugged the microphone and said with sincerity and incomparable nervousness. It was all thanks to this Mr. Zhong Hai that today's wedding banquet could be held so decently. This was not a character they could normally come into contact with. You're welcome, you're welcome. Under the brilliant lights, Zhong Hai, who was over 50 years old, smiled casually. I'm also happy to see you guys get married. And just as the scene reversed several times, Sun Li, who had been forgotten by everyone. At this moment, there was only a figure left in her eyes looking at Wei Xiao standing on the stage with a blank face. Sun Li couldn't help but subconsciously say, is he the singer from just now? Chapter 71. No stay, no time. While Sun Li had a stunned look on her face, the guests gradually came back to their senses. Wei Xiao, on the other hand, was at a loss. But vaguely, he still felt a hint of something wrong. At that exact moment, Lu Feng continued to control the scene and said, I wonder if Mr. Zhong has anything to say. Want to say to the couple in front of you? Wang Lu and Yi Ping instantly tensed up. The guests under the stage saw that such a big boss was so concerned about Wang Lu and Yi Ping's wedding. They were also all namely shocked and proud. This was not a treatment that everyone could have. Zhong Hai took over the microphone. As a matter of fact, I still knew about this matter through a friend of mine. At that time, I knew that the two of you would be organizing a wedding at our hotel. I just thought, it has to be beautiful and nice. Zhong Hai was also an old orator and immediately asked the stage when he said this. Guests, are you still satisfied with tonight's wedding? The enthusiasm of the crowd, too, was once again ignited. Satisfied. Zhong Hai smiled faintly and looked at the stage without a trace. The young man who hadn't uttered a single word since the beginning. Wei Xiao already had a not-so-good premonition at this moment. Especially when Zhong Hai looked at himself, this sense of crisis instantly came to its peak. Zhong Hai looked at Wei Xiao with a smirk and then opened his mouth, asking a question that Wei Xiao simply couldn't refuse to answer. Mr. Huang, is he okay these days? Wei Xiao took a deep breath and immediately understood everything that happened tonight. And the meaning of Zhong Hai's appearance. Everything is fine with Mr. Huang. Wei Xiao squeezed out a smile and politely said, and Zhong Hai, who had received Wei Xiao's affirmative reply, completely affirmed Wei Xiao's identity. Just then, Lu Feng, who was in charge of controlling the situation on the side. In turn, he started the second wave of the favor attack. Only to see Lu Feng say with a mysterious face. I just said, tonight's wedding banquet. There are two people that have silently given a lot. Fortunately, today, these two both appeared at the scene. And right by my side. Lu Feng said while pointing in the direction where Wei Xiao was. Mr. Wei, tonight's wedding banquet. I'm sure you're satisfied with it. Wei Xiao could only respond as he saw that things had come to a head. Very satisfied. Thank you, Mr. Zheng. You're welcome. Next time you want to come to our hotel, just let me know. I'll reserve a place for you in advance. The guests present, even the most obtuse. They all understood at this moment. Wang Lu's wedding invitation had been distributed a week earlier, but yesterday evening, it was temporarily changed. From the second floor, changed to the third floor. Many people were very puzzled earlier. But tonight, after Lu Feng spread everything out, only then did all the people understand that it was their boss Zhong Hai. Silently gave Wang Lu husband and wife, change the floor. And the reason for this scene? The reason for the scene is that Wei Xiao silently asked Zhong Hai behind the scenes. Otherwise, how could such a big boss care about Wang Lu for no reason? How else would a boss that big care about Wang Lu for no reason at all? For a while, everyone's gaze towards Wei Xiao became different. And among these people, like Yi Chen and Zhu Ming, all of them were excited, while their hearts were secretly happy. But, for the same thing. Chen Shui's mood, however, could no longer be described as bad. After the two of them broke up, Chen Shui had been in a difficult state of mind. After all, she still had feelings for Wei Xiao, and all those years of being in love had not been in vain. But since the last time, after going to Wei Xiao's house to get something, she realized that she could not understand Wei Xiao more and more. Investment success, luxury car in hand. These are not to be mentioned. Now looking at the top of the stage, Zhong Hai's gracious look. Chen Shui couldn't help but have 10,000 questions popping up in her heart. Wei Xiao, in the end, how did he recognize such a big shot? Zheng Feng, who was sitting beside Chen Shui, also had an ugly face. Tonight, although Wei Xiao had a very ugly situation. But Zheng Feng in the previous, the heart is always despise Wei Xiao. However, now, looking at even the boss of Hyatt Hotel, he was so polite to Wei Xiao. He could not help but have a question in his heart. Xiao Shui, this Wei Xiao actually knows Mr. Zheng? Even the vice president of our company, Qian, wants to meet Mr. Zheng. That all had to be booked in advance. How does he know him? Subconsciously, Zheng Feng assumed that it was Chen Shui who was hiding it from him. How would I know? He wasn't like this at all before. Chen Shui was a little agitated. When Zheng Feng saw this, he was a little dissatisfied in his heart, but on the surface, he did not say anything more. It was just that when he looked at Chen Shui, his gaze grew a few degrees colder. On the stage, General Manager Zhong said a few more words of joy, followed by went down. Wei Xiao was also together, accompanied by walking down. Lu Feng, on the other hand, once again took control of the atmosphere of the entire venue through the means of playing games. after Wei Xiao and Zhong Hai walked down. The two of them very tacitly walked aside to the no man's land at the back of the stage. Wei Zhao's heart was already clear at this point. Why Mr. Zhong would appear on purpose? And why will make such a mess? Originally, Wei Xiao was planning to keep a low profile. He himself was not a high-profile person. However, since the matter could no longer be concealed, Wei Xiao didn't care too much about it. After all, no matter what, the person had also helped himself. At the back of the stage, Wei Xiao looked at the other party with a smile on his face. Associated with that, this wedding banquet was really well organized. Wei Xiao immediately had a decision in her heart. Thank you so much, Mr. Zhong. I think if you're free in the next few days, why don't we have a meal together? I'll make an appointment with you then. Whether it was from the perspective of the success of this wedding banquet, or from the other party's status, Wei Xiao had no reason to refuse and become friends with the other party. What's more, the other party had gone to such great lengths to even meet with him for the first time. This bit of face, Wei Xiao was still willing to give. Zhong Hai also revealed a deep smile when he heard this. That's just right, I don't have anything to do these days. I'll be waiting for your call then. No problem. Wei Xiao and Zhong Hai left each other's phone numbers not long after. Zhong Hai left first. After all, his status was here, and this was not the time to talk. There would be plenty of time in the future. After seeing Zhong Hai off, Wei Xiao was about to go back to his seat when he saw a familiar figure. Straightening up, he walked towards himself. Mr. Wei. You're the one from the lobby earlier. Wei Xiao wasn't quite sure at first, but after carefully recognizing him, he was immediately on guard. How did this even chase him here? What's the matter with you? I just want to leave a contact with you. Incidentally, to be able to ask you out for dinner. Sun Li was a little embarrassed, but still said strongly. Such a good seedling, plus that song just now. Sun Li really didn't want to let go. However, Wei Xiao was on a full alert level so far, the women who wanted to invite him to dinner. One was more troublesome than the other. In front, there was Zheng Haining, and after that, there was Lan Yu. Now, there's a 40-year-old woman. Also wanted to invite herself for dinner. Can that be a good thing? Wei Xiao blackened his face and spoke without thinking. No stay, no time. P.S. I'll start saving up for the next few days, and I'll consider adding more for everyone afterward. In addition, I have always been double open before, the other book has just finished today, really is not writing less. I hope you will understand. Finally, please remember to go to the end of the book to give a 5-star praise. If you can comment on it would be better. A million thanks. Chapter 72, Extreme Human Bitterness. Sun Li, who had failed in her second look. She could only look at Wei Xiao with bated breath and return to her seat. Her eyes were filled with loss. Even, she was a bit innocent. Why, is this young man so resistant to his good intentions? Do you know how many young boys and girls in China dreaming of coming to our company to develop? While her heart was agonizing, Sun Li's cell phone suddenly rang. Hello? Sister Li. Little Ling and I have finished filming, we'll be on a plane back in a while. This side of Beijing TV says that the shoot was a success. Sun Li listened to the phone call, a barrage from Vivian. Her irritable mood was finally eased a bit. Well, then come back early. Also, that movie contract for Little Ling, I've already negotiated it today. When we turn around, you bring her out and we'll have dinner together. By the way, let's talk about the movie this time. On the other end of the phone, Vivian immediately said. No problem. Just the three of us, no outsiders, right? You also know, Little Ling doesn't like socializing. I know, just the three of us. Sun Li rolled her eyes. Alright, I'm not to the point where I want little Shadow to accompany me for drinks. Besides, don't say it's in China. It's the whole of Asia. There's no one worthy enough to let our family little Shadow to accompany a drink. He, I knew Sister Li was the best. I'll wait for your call for dinner. Well, just for a few days. After chatting about things, Sun Li slowly put down her cell phone. Taking one last look at Wei Zhao's side face, Sun Li turned away with hatred. The human world is extremely bitter. seeking but not being able to. Back on the mat again. Wei Xiao realized that eating could be such a hard task. Brother, how do you know the human Zhong general? Yeah, Wei Xiao you can now. I told you, Wei Xiao is awesome now. Why, we all know that, it's just that some people don't. On the table, everyone's words came like a raging wind and rain. Wei Xiao, however, just calmly said, let's eat something first. I'm not even full yet. Wei Xiao was telling the truth. While everyone was eating, he was singing. While everyone was eating, he was busy coping with chatting with Zhong Hai. On and off the stage, it took half an hour. The bridesmaids burst into laughter and greeted Wei Xiao with more food. But even as Wei Xiao ate, the table was bustling with activity. He can still hear, the next table Zhu Ming several people, or a speech. Nothing more than that, is how Wei Xiao how to do. In addition, is to mock Zhang Feng a few sentences. Only this moment has not been dispersed, the wedding banquet is still in progress. Xu Ming several people are very measured, insinuating without a trace. But this makes Zhang Feng, the face has never been normal. On the contrary, a few people looked at Wei Xiao's face as well as the gender issue. Did not make things too difficult for Chen Shui. Wei Xiao just shook her head slightly at this and stopped paying attention. Soon, the newcomers came to make a toast. Wang Lu brought Ji Ping, and with a wineglass in hand, they came in front of Wei Xiao today. Thank you so much. Let's not talk about our two more, it's all in the wine. Wang Lu said with great bravado, but her eyes were all grateful. Wei Xiao looked at the picture in front of her, and her thoughts were instantly moved to surge up. More than 10 years of life passed by in a flash, what remained unchanged was the friendship between the two. I'm driving, so I won't drink. Drink juice with you. You don't do it either, there's a lot of people in a while. Wei Xiao laughed and took the other party's tall wineglass, replacing it with a small wine measuring cup. Wang Lu also made a rare move of not refuting Wei Xiao. Bottoms up. Bottoms up. On the tabletop, everyone got up, drinks and wine were raised high. An emotion called warmth instantly filled the room. You guys eat and drink well, I'm going to continue the toast. Wang Lu greeted the table and said helplessly to Wei Xiao. Go ahead, this is the only day in your life. Wei Xiao smiled and watched Wang Lu head to the next table. However, Wang Lu who went to the next table. It was not as casual as it was here in Wei Xiao's place. Wang Lu brought Yi Ping and toasted very politely. Following that, it looked at Chen Shui. Chen Shui, who had been taunted and mocked all night, had lost her high profile when she arrived. After silently finishing her drink, she sat back in silence. Wang Lu didn't say much and continued to walk to the next table. Time passed slowly, after a few painless twists and turns. The wedding banquet also finally came to almost 8 o'clock. The guests began to exit one after another. Wei Xiao also continued to deal with the beautiful women at the table. One by one, the young girls who were as old as flowers were eagerly pulling him to talk about the world. Wei Xiao couldn't be bothered to be cold and put on a scowl. After Wei Xiao finished dealing with all of them, only then did Ji Chen come over and said, Brother, those two are gone. Wei Xiao naturally knew who Yi Chen was referring to as those two. However, his reply was very simple. I know. After saying that, Wei Xiao found a chance to escape another wave of attacks from the beauties. He hurriedly brought Yi Chen to Wang Lu. It was mainly to ask if there was any help needed. If not, Wei Xiao was also preparing to retreat. Before long, Wei Xiao was by the exit of the hall. He saw Wang Lu. Wang Lu, at this time, was busy sending guests. Most of them were some distant relatives of the family, or friends and elders or something. Is there any to be busy with? No, I can go back. Wei Xiao said as he came forward. He was also a bit tired at this moment. He had gotten up at the crack of dawn in the morning and had run around all day. To say that one wasn't tired would definitely be a lie. Fortunately, it was just as well that he wasn't getting married by himself, or else it would have been even more grueling. Wait, go with me to see my husband. Wang Lu finished delivering another batch of customers and threw the work to his cousin Wang He. I'm afraid that fool has been overdosed. It can't be, can it? You have no idea how pitiful his gang of friends are. If I don't go over there, I'll be bullied to death, just because he's so honest. If you're so afraid of him, why don't you just guard him? That's not good, he's a man, the face that should be given still has to be given. When Wei Xiao heard this, she couldn't help but laugh as well. Can't see that you're still a wise wife. Then why are you in a hurry again at this moment? Wang Lu's eyes crossed and she coldly said. He's dunked, what am I going to do at night? When Wei Xiao heard this, she was silent on the spot. A few minutes later, when Wei Xiao saw Yi Ping again, it was only then that he finally realized that Wang Lu's worries were not without reason. Wei Xiao looked at the situation. A group of people surrounded Yi Ping, one person and one wineglass, taking turns to toast. That was simply wanting Yi Ping's life. Poor Wang Lu's husband, but also a real person, the big day and very happy, simply cannot resist a group of friends and two brothers. By this time, he was already on his feet and couldn't speak well. Wang Lu saw this scene and immediately became angry. What's going on? This is not going to let my husband go home with me. Chapter 73 Life shouldn't have gone wrong. Wang Lu's appearance was immediate. Everyone could not dump Yi Ping, but for this bride, it did give face. Yi Ping's elder brother and second brother also hurriedly said. Okay, almost got it. That's right, you guys are not wanting my brother to cave in. Big brother Yi, you're just being unreasonable. That's right, you're obviously the one who took the lead. Yi Ping's elder brother Yian said with a serious face. That's still not being asked by you guys. Alright, the people's wives are here, disperse. Under Yian's encouragement, Yi Ping's friends soon whimpered and dispersed with laughter, leaving behind a groom who was lying on the table, yelling to continue. Wei Xiao looked at this situation, helplessly waved his hand. On the side, Yi Chen hurriedly came forward, and Wei Xiao set up Yi Ping with one arm each. Say, where to throw it? Throw it directly to the backstage, there's a restroom there. When we're done backstage, I'll find someone to drag him home. Wang Lu also had a bitter smile on her face. Wei Xiao and Yi Chen immediately led Yi Ping towards the direction of the backstage. But before they took 2 steps, they saw Zhu Ming, who was about to leave. What's going on here? This is drinking too much, giving someone a ride to the back. Slow down. Forget it, I'll give a hand too. It didn't take long for Wei Xiao to settle Yi Ping down. Looking at Zhu Ming in front of her, Wei Xiao also couldn't help but think of the college days she once had. Although that memory was not Wei Xiao's, it was engraved in the memory for Wei Xiao. Recalling the scene on the mat just now, Zhu Ming stood out to support himself. Wei Xiao said with a smile on his face. How's it going these days? Just like that, just graduated and still idling at home. It's you, kid, you're really developed now. Not only did you buy a luxury car, but you also know a big boss like Mr. Zhong. We were in a dormitory at that time. It is estimated that you are the best, right? Zhu Ming face emotion. In the beginning we're a dormitory brothers, but now? He was still idle at home, but the man Wei Xiao had already befriended the big boss without saying a word. This caused Zhu Ming's heart to fall for a while. Why, it's just luck. Wei Xiao saw that the other party was in a low mood and immediately said. We also have FMS and phone calls, let's get together later. When I'm done with this period of time. Yeah, one word. Okay, it's a deal. I'll call you later. After bidding farewell to Zhu Ming, Wei Xiao finally said goodbye to Wang Lu. However, after leaving the front door of the hotel, Wei Xiao began to have trouble again. It was because his day wasn't over yet. Looking at the screen of his cell phone, Wei Xiao was hesitating whether he should contact Lan Yu or not. On the other end, Lan Yu's Feishan message was sent. How's it going? Have you finished the wedding wine? I still have 20 minutes before I get off work. What do you want to eat? Facing the other party's 1 key and 3 questions. Wei Xiao pondered for a while and slowly replied. You pick the location, whatever. Aha, then I'll take a look and talk to you later. Looking at the other party's almost second reply message, Wei Xiao couldn't help but look at Yi Chen beside her again. The cheap cousin immediately scrunched his neck and squeezed out a smile. Brother, you're busy, I'll take the car back first. Don't worry, definitely sleep on the sofa. Wei Xiao let out a long sigh. Go, be safe on the road. Greeting away Yi Chen, Wei Xiao stopped a car by hand. He really didn't want to eat with Lan Yu, but he couldn't help that Yi Chen had promised people for himself. Master, Magic City Global Shopping Center. Go you. The taxi driver was a young guy, and the person was quite spirited. Wei Xiao took out his cigarettes and gave one to the other. Following that, he lit one himself. Thoughts, however, have been immersed in the system. A day of busy work down, poor and extravagant task. It was also completed the moment the portion was sent out. Ding! Completed mission, poor and extravagant. Ding! Mission reward, extend lifespan by 3 days, 1-star adjustment card has been issued. Ding! Mission reward, lucky attribute value increased by 1 point. Wei Xiao briefly glanced at the star tuning card and followed it in the system. Attention, however, was all focused on his personal attributes previously. Wei Xiao's luck was 5 points. The evaluation then read, "Are you the legendary chosen one?" And now, his luck value had come to 6 points. His attribute panel, too, had seen a qualitative change. Luck, 6 points. Your life has been shrouded by an auspicious star, all calamities will automatically be far away from you, and luck will be nothing more than a common occurrence for you. Attention! The host's luck attribute has exceeded 5 points. Triggering an additional effect, undeserved fate. Fate should not be extinguished. When the host encounters a life and death calamity, his survivability will increase dramatically, and his luck value will always remain at its peak. Seeing this, Wei Xiao couldn't help but suck in a breath of cool air. Just the description of the attributes brought about by the luck value coming to 6 points. It already caused Wei Xiao to feel a wave of shock. The ability of Calamity Retreat, that was simply heaven-defying. And upon seeing that extra effect, fate undeserved, Wei Xiao could only say from the bottom of his heart. Cow criticism. Normally speaking, Wei Xiao's life was only based on his 6 points of luck value, and the ability of disappearance of calamity. He basically wouldn't have encountered any major disasters. And the appearance of the undesirable fate had even minimized the slightest possibility of danger that he might encounter. It was completely minimized. As long as Wei Xiao didn't make a fool of himself. With his luck of being able to gamble a world-class original stone at any time, it was almost impossible for him to have any luck. It was almost impossible for him to have any accidents at all. Wei Xiao spent several minutes, after slowing down. Only then did he finally silently accept the change in his luck against the heavens. Then, he quickly adjusted his mindset and said to the system. "System, I want the quest now. Release it." The current Wei Xiao had already figured out the system's doorway. Very lightly, he directly wanted the task. The system didn't dawdle either, and started operating on the spot. Task name, Foresight. Task description, the host needs to spend the 20 million RMB of funds gifted by the system in any investment or entrepreneurial way. Task time limit, 15 days. Mission reward, extend lifespan by 7 days. Penalty for failure, exacerbation of condition. Ding! As this mission is the first appearance of TZG, upon completion, you will receive an additional 1 point of hidden talent gnosis value. Seeing the appearance of this quest, Wei Xiao, who was on the rental, laughed silently. 1,000 calls, but you're finally here. However, Wei Xiao just glanced at the funds for the quest. Then he subconsciously frowned. $20 million of startup funds was actually not a small amount. However, it was still slightly worse than what Wei Xiao expected. Wei Xiao thought for a moment and immediately pulled out the star tuning card that he had just put away. Star tuning card in use. Mission star level is rising. Ding! Mission has been upgraded. Chapter 74, Setting a Small Goal First. Mission star level is rising. Ding! The mission has been upgraded. With the use of the star adjustment card, the system reissued a new mission. Mission name, Tall Vision. Mission description, the host needs to spend the 100 million RMB of funds gifted by the system in any investment or business venture. Task time limit, 20 days. Mission reward, extend life expectancy by 15 days. Penalty for failure, exacerbation of condition. Ding! As this mission is the first appearance of a throw of foresight, you will receive an additional 1 point of hidden talent gnosis upon completion. Seeing this, Wei Xiao was satisfied. The quest funds directly took off, rising from 20 million to 100 million. It could simply be said to be a qualitative leap. This also gave Wei Xiao more options. In addition, the slight change in time, Wei Xiao instead didn't care as much as he did in the past. This was because Wei Xiao had also discovered it. as long as he was always in the process of doing quests. Theoretically, he was able to break even. 100 million? Wei Xiao pondered silently in his heart, but suddenly couldn't help but smile. Let's set a small goal first. Spend 100 million on him. Pulling out her cell phone, Wei Xiao hurriedly sent a few messages to Yi Chen. When you get home, check out these games. Also, find out if there's any way it's possible to contact these few studios. After sending these, Wei Xiao then let out a long breath. Yi Chen's big life event had finally made a little progress. 10 or so minutes later. The main floor of the Magic City Global Shopping Center. Wei Xiao stood there like a bright light in the dark night, attracting attention. It was different from the last time he came here. The current Wei Xiao added a bit more nobility and calmness coupled with his current handsome appearance. Many of the young ladies who came to shop couldn't help but cast sideways glances as well. Without waiting long, Wei Xiao received Lan Yu. The little girl knew that he had arrived early. She also pinpointed the time to get off work at the right time and flew over. Looking at the other party because all the way tight rush, and slightly reddish clear face. Wei Xiao also could not help but say. In fact, there is no need to be in such a hurry. Tired, right? Lan Yu's heart warmed up and smiled. Not tired, just as if it's exercise. That, I found a Hai Di Lao. Already booked a spot, let's go straight there. Wei Xiao laughed. Okay. More than 20 minutes later. In a Hai Di Lao hot pot restaurant that wasn't too far away. Lan Yu, who had just finished her paycheck, ordered a table full of dishes with a big wave of her hand. Ordering so much, you can't finish it, right? Wei Xiao laughed bitterly. I came over after having the wedding wine. Ah. Righto. It was only then that Lan Yu reacted to the fact that Wei Xiao had come directly after having dinner. The young girl who had long been blinded by happiness did things a lot more impulsively. But Lan Yu still laughed. It's okay, I eat a lot. I don't have any other advantages, I just can't get fat from eating. Wei Xiao also couldn't help but laugh. If Wang Lu heard this, she would have to vomit blood in anger. How many girls were there who were plagued by the problem of eating versus being fat? Right, your manager, he didn't give you a hard time afterwards, did he? Shabbling dishes in his hand, Wei Xiao suddenly said. No. Lan Yu said with a wry face. I told her that you might still go to our place to buy clothes after a while. Where else would she dare to bully me? Clever. Wei Xiao gave the other party a nod and casually ate some. But it wasn't too much, after all, she had just eaten. Lan Yu, however, was still happy. Even if this table was full of food, she simply couldn't finish it alone. Seeing this, Wei Xiao was somewhat silent. He could naturally see Lan Yu's mind. After thinking for a while, Wei Xiao gradually had a plan in his heart. He must stifle this matter in advance before it completely deteriorates. As for how to kill, Wei Xiao looked at Lan Yu, who was eating happily, and slowly said. Actually, you don't have to be like this. What? Lan Yu said with a stunned face. What did you just say? I said, you don't have to be like this. Wei Xiao sighed. Actually, I'm sick. And it's also very serious. Lan Yu looked disbelieving and even got a little upset. You can't say this nonsense. What kind of person jokes about their own body? Wei Xiao laughed bitterly. I'm really sick. Cancer, liver cancer. The hospital tests are all out, it's still late stage. Lan Yu was completely shocked by Wei Xiao's sudden words. How can that be? Looking at Wei Xiao's flushed face, Lan Yu was filled with shock. You this? How can? Wei Xiao took a deep breath. So, you really don't have to be like this. I probably won't live much longer either. When Lan Yu heard this, her entire body froze. She had never thought that this sunny and kind man in front of her. Surprisingly, he had gotten such a serious disease. Learning the truth, Blue Yu immediately tensed. Then what did the doctor say? I've heard that the medical level over in the meter country is very high, have you gone to see it? Lan Yu knew that Wei Xiao had money and immediately said. With your circumstances, it shouldn't be that you don't have a chance to be treated. Been there, the doctor said that I can only listen to God's will. As for how long it can last, that's unknown. Wei Xiao said with a serious face. These words were half false and half true. How long Wei Xiao could live did depend on the system. If he did more tasks, he could live longer. But if the task is done less, or if the task fails, then it was waiting for a violent death. Lan Yu completely fell into silence. She did like Wei Xiao, but she didn't know. It turned out that Wei Xiao had already been stricken by a disease. This was not her fault. After all, Wei Xiao looked from the surface alone. It was called a rosy, glowing face. Anyone else would not think that this was a patient with terminal cancer. It's okay, it's definitely possible to get through this. Lan Yu searched her brain for words to comfort. You're so nice and good. It's definitely going to be okay. Where did you see that? I'm excellent? It's just that you can tell. Lan Yu blushed, but her heart followed suit. Looking at Wei Xiao's smiling appearance, Lan Yu's heart inexplicably just ached. He's like this, yet he's still smiling at me. At this instant, the thoughts in Lan Yu's heart became more and more determined. You will definitely get better. I will accompany you. Wei Xiao was slightly stunned. Following that, he couldn't help but hold his forehead and had a headache. I'm not telling you this to make you accompany me. But when Lan Yu saw this, she thought that he was touched by himself. What I said is true. Other people are afraid of cancer, but I'm not. Isn't it just a virus? Humanity's technology is so advanced now. Sooner or later it can be attacked. You must hold on. Wei Xiao said silently in his heart. Of course I'll hold on. But what are you so excited about? Eat. Wei Xiao stiffly pinched food for himself. And in Lan Yu's eyes, this was just him trying to forcefully pretend that nothing was wrong. Taking a deep breath, Lan Yu's gaze had never been firmer as he said. You're not fighting alone. Chapter 75, Your Future. Wei Xiao was not interested in the question of whether or not he was fighting alone. It wasn't actually interested. But looking at the young girl's fearless appearance, he really didn't understand it. Aren't you afraid of anything? What I have is cancer. I'm not afraid. Lan Yu thought Wei Xiao was worried about herself and immediately said. I graduated from health school, I know what cancer is. Liver cancer is usually not contagious. Even if it's liver cancer caused by the hepatitis B virus, but as long as there is no sex, there won't be a problem. Lan Yu's face turned red as she spoke. Wei Xiao also never expected this girl in front of her. Obviously a clothes seller, but it turned out to be a graduate of the Wei School. But this is all unimportant. Looking at the other party had a look of wanting to share the pain with himself. Wei Xiao could only hurriedly digress. Alright, let's not talk about this. Come, eat. Lan Yu didn't have much heart to eat at this moment. She just looked at Wei Xiao firmly. Don't worry, everything will be fine. In the end, the table of dishes still wasn't finished. Although Lan Yu shouted slogans loudly, her fighting strength was just at a normal level. While Wei Xiao took the excuse of going to the restroom, he paid the money. He couldn't do the thing of letting someone girl and treat himself to dinner yet. However, this made Lan Yu's heart feel touched again. He cares about me. After leaving the Haidaleo, Lan Yu couldn't help but have such a thought pop up in her heart. At the same time, she was also finally trying to understand a problem. Lan Yu was a very independent and at the same time very opinionated girl. Although when facing Wei Xiao, her brain was not in charge a lot of the time, and was even insufficient. But that didn't mean that Lan Yu didn't have her own ideas. In front of the disease and her love, Lan Yu quickly made her own judgment. Don't worry, I'll turn around and find my classmate. She's a high school student specializing in medicine, different from me. She can definitely provide some help. Although Lan Yu knew that Wei Xiao was in a good environment and probably didn't need her help. But she still said so. Because Lan Yu wanted to do something. Instead of watching Wei Xiao eventually fall in front of cancer. Thank you. Wei Xiao sighed. Faced with this sigh, subconsciously, Lan Yu assumed that it was Wei Xiao sighing about her life. The always introverted Lan Yu didn't know where the courage came from. Surprisingly, she directly rushed up and hugged Wei Xiao. At the same time, she also gently patted Wei Xiao's back and said, Hang in there, we will definitely think of a way. Wei Xiao. Lan Yu, who had originally planned to ask Wei Xiao out to watch a movie, was not in the mood at this moment. After simply saying some words of encouragement to Wei Xiao, she was sent home by Wei Xiao. Wei Xiao was also not expecting that Lan Yu would care so much about herself. But seeing that his plan A had failed, Wei Xiao could only choose to remain silent for the time being. Following the road back, Wei Xiao fell into deep thought. Obviously, the problem of his own cancer was serious though. But for some girls, it didn't seem to be unacceptable. In the past, when he watched those love dramas, Wei Xiao still felt that kind of life and death love. Very beautiful. However now, Wei Xiao only felt a burst of headache. Still, as long as there was no sex, there wasn't much of a problem? No, it looks like the cancer persuasion method can't be used in the future. Thinking back to Zhang Heining's reaction earlier when he knew he had cancer, as well as Lan Yu's reaction now that she had learned that she had cancer, Wei Xiao felt that in the future, when dissuading girls, it seemed like it would have to be done in a different way. This cancer, it doesn't scare people at all. After waiting for the emotions in his heart to completely subside, Wei Xiao then had to start seriously facing up to a problem. That was the approach of a girl. Should he accept it? This question, Wei Xiao had an answer almost instantly. From the current situation, with his current charisma value, even if he had cancer, that wouldn't be able to stop those teenage girls. If all of them pounced on him like Lan Yu, then the consequences, simply unimaginable. It's all because of the damn charisma value. And Wei Xiao also confirmed one thing over and over again. That was, he didn't actually have much male or female feelings for Lan Yu. It was just like how he was with Zhang Haining. At most, they could only be described as friends. In this situation, how could he accept the feelings of someone else's girl? It was inappropriate and unsuitable. Clearing his mind, Wei Xiao hurried back home. However, it seems like I don't have liver cancer caused by the hepatitis B virus either. That means. Thinking this way, Wei Xiao's mood. Once again, he was open-minded. When Wei Xiao arrived home, it was already 11 o'clock. Although he and Lan Yu didn't delay much. But a meal, plus sending someone home. One after the other, more than 2 hours had also passed. To Wei Xiao's relief, when he arrived home, Yi Chen was lying on the sofa with a quilt over his head, studying the games that he had mentioned. This made Wei Xiao's heart burst with relief. He really hadn't heartbroken Yi Chen for nothing. But this naive thought of Wei Xiao's was completely shattered a few minutes later. How's it going? As soon as he entered the room, Wei Xiao asked. HM? Brother, you're back. I'm still looking at it. Any thoughts yet? It's okay, I think these games you recommended, brother. They're all pretty good. Wei Xiao's heart was overwhelmed for a while. But just as he was about to open his mouth, he heard Yi Chen add, "Brother, are you ready to team up with me and play games together?" Wei Xiao's movements froze, followed by a curse. Did I let you watch the game just to play a game with you? Or else? That said, you're not really planning to go into the gaming industry, are you? I see you told me to find a way to contact those game developers. Thought you were joking with me. What am I kidding you about? Am I that idle? No. But didn't you say that you've been investing in stocks? How could it be a good idea to go back to making games? Wei Xiao calmed his emotions and slowly said. Investing in stocks is an investment, investing in games is also an investment. Oh, then you cheer. Yi Chen said while giving Wei Xiao a thumbs up. Seeing this, Wei Xiao finally couldn't help herself. Going up, he gave Yi Chen a loving brain crash. Crap, brother, what are you doing? I fucking really want to slap you to death, you unproductive thing. And what did I do? Yi Chen said with an innocent face, I'm studying finance, not game software or programming. You let me help, I can't help. You have to help even if you can't help. Wei Xiao said angrily. He knew that he wouldn't make it clear today. This asshole brother would not be enlightened in any way. Wei Xiao sat down opposite Yi Chen and said with a rare gloomy face. Do you want to marry Xiao Cheng or not? I want to. Then you want to think about it, with what identity to see your future in-laws. Thought about it, but haven't thought about it yet. Why do you think I want to invest in the game industry? It's not to find something for you brats to do. Let me tell you, if you really want to marry Xiaoqing, I want to have a baby. Just fucking hurry up and figure out these games. Find those studios and contact the other side. Speaking here, Wei Xiao spoke with a complex expression. All of this is for your future. Chapter 76, Martial Master? It wasn't until the moment Wei Xiao made everything clear. Only then did Yi Chen completely understand Wei Xiao's good intentions. Previously, in Yi Chen's opinion, although cousin had made money. But that is also Wei Xiao's own, and his relationship is not big. But he never thought that Wei Xiao had always been so concerned about his own problems. Sorry, brother. Forget it, watch and learn well. How well you can mix afterward depends on yourself. That's all I can do. Wei Xiao finished, no longer paying attention to Yi Chen. He directly turned around and went back to the second floor. Looking at his cousins silently departing back, Yi Chen finally realized for the first time. Himself turned out to be really childish. Went back to his room and took a shower. Wei Xiao lay on the bed, only feeling weak whether it was mentally or physically. Wei Xiao felt a long-lost sense of exhaustion. It had been just a week since she crossed over, but it was as if a century had passed. Nearby was Yi Chen's life events, and far away was his own time running out. Leaning on the pillow, Wei Xiao was just about to take an early rest. A message came on her cell phone. To be precise, it was a photo. On the photo, Mr. Huang was dressed in casual clothes, standing in front of the beach with a pretty young girl as well as a teenager. The teenager had long hair, youthful vigor, and a sweet smile. The teenager had a bored face, lazy and very prevaricating. How is it? My daughter looks good, right? Just finished looking at the photo. Mr. Huang's message followed like a shadow. Brother Huang, still up this late? Why, getting ready to go to sleep. It's not thinking about you, kid, you should be home too. Just chatting with you for a couple of minutes. Wei Xiao couldn't help but laugh out bitterly. People Huang General, this can be really painstaking. Good looking, looks like your own. Like you. Ha 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 ha. Did the wedding go well tonight? It went well, thanks to you, brother Huang. That's good. When you're free, come to Maple Leaf Country. Accompany me for a walk at that time. Wei Xiao pondered slightly and followed with a reply. Okay, I'll go see you after I'm done with the matter at hand in the next few days. Although Wei Xiao hadn't been in contact with Mr. Huang for a long time, but he could feel that the person, General Manager Huang, had used his heart for himself. And with the other party's status and position, he could still care about himself so much. That was even more extremely rare. Wei Xiao did not mind going to see each other. It is that daughter of Mr. Huang. Wei Xiao thought about it and shook his head helplessly. The big deal was just to see each other, the world was so big anyway. It's not like he could keep running to Maple Leaf Country just then. Mr. Huang sent another message. By the way, my untalented son, he's also in Magic City right now. Before you come at that time, say something to me. I'll have him come back with you. Seeing this, Wei Xiao couldn't help but say, Brother Huang, wouldn't you just let him go back directly? Who knew that Mr. Huang was the one who replied. This kid of his heart is playing wild. I went to Mordor this time, he wouldn't even come and have a meal with me. And even went straight into hiding. Just think of it as you, Brother Huang, me, troubling you. When you get there, go and tie him up or knock him out. As long as the person is brought over. Wei Xiao froze, then said. That's not appropriate, right? What's inappropriate? If it weren't for the fact that my people don't dare to lay a hand on him, I would have already sent someone to tie him back up. Wei Xiao was speechless for a while, and only after a long time did he say, all right, I know. Turn around and I'll try to see if I can help you bring someone back. But I can't guarantee it. It's fine, when you get there, just say that I asked you to bring him back. As for what method to use, you can see for yourself. Oh yeah, that kid is quite capable of fighting. Just remember not to fight him. Usually 10 or 8 are not enough to beat him up. Crap, this motherfucker is still a person who knows martial arts. Wei Xiao also did not expect the original Mr. Huang his son Or a martial arts master? This made Wei Xiao couldn't help but regret the decision he just made. Hasty ah. But the words had been said, so Wei Xiao could only be tough. After Mr. Huang finished this, he also went to sleep. Wei Xiao wasn't in the mood to watch the live broadcast or brush up on the drama either. He directly fell down and fell asleep. At the same time, after arriving home, Lan Yu was lying in front of the computer table. Speaking to the girl in the video, she looked serious and said something serious. So, look at this cancer. There's really no way to fix it? I say Xiaoyua, you also studied medicine. Even though I graduated from health school, but that's cancer. It's not like you don't know that medical organizations around the world are now actively attacking this problem. But it's been more than 10 years, isn't it still only a means of suppression? You're asking me to think of a solution. What solution can I have? Lan Yu couldn't help but say. But you were the best in our class back then. I went to health school, but didn't you go to medical school? My ancestors I even graduated from the medical university. But now I'm just a duty doctor. I haven't even been on the operating table a few times, I'm just along to help with the miscellaneous tasks. You think I'm the saint of the medical kingdom? Seeing that her best friend had said so, Lan Yu was deflated for a while. Who knew that even more deflated was yet to come? I'm telling you, advanced liver cancer, that's incurable. Inhibiting means are useless. Moreover, liver cancer is a very painful type of cancer. When the patient reaches the late stage, once the pain starts, it's life-threatening. Usually in the later stages of cancer, not only will the body collapse, the look. Forget it. It's really not that I won't help you, but I'm serious with you. You'd better break your mind early. Facing her best friend's words, Lan Yu said angrily. People are so young and still so strong and optimistic. Which is not as scary as you say. Lan Yu, whose mind was filled with Wei Xiao's red-faced appearance. How could she not brainstorm the picture that her best friend was talking about? However, her best friend obviously knew deep down that the Lan Yu in front of her was just as sick. Alas, you say you're also quite uncomfortable. When you were in school, there were so many good-looking boys chasing after you. You couldn't even look at any of them. Now it's not easy to see one. He's got cancer again, and he's a rich kid. This is not a good match. Lan Yu looked despondent and said. I don't care if he has money or not. When I first saw him, he didn't have any money either. Went to our store all dressed up in ground floor goods. Almost didn't get kicked out by our manager. If I hadn't let him into the store, I still don't know what it would have been like. The best friend obviously knew about this as well. Immediately sighed. Alright, I'm just persuading you. Look away. Hanging up the video, Lan Yu laid down on the table. Her eyes were red without realizing it. She didn't know why she was sad, but it was as if the entire world was about to collapse. It pressed down on her and she couldn't breathe. The past images between the two flowed one by one. That person who stood in front of her and protected her. The one who always had a sunny smile on his face no matter when. That person who seemed to be unable to bring trouble to the other person in any matter. Now, he was facing the most terrible disease in the world. Thoughts gradually converged and surged into a long river. Lan Yu, on the other hand, slowly sat up, wiped the tears from the corners of her own eyes, and muttered to herself. I won't give up. P.S. Today 3 more, the follow-up began to add more depending on the situation, such as there is no unforeseen situation, daily 3 more from. Then simply set a small goal for yourself. Currently the book rating 8. 3, followed by each increase of 0. 1, plus 10 chapters. Once the target is reached, I am working overtime all night will also give you to honor the promise, assuming that everyone can rush to 9. 3 in one day. Then I am sudden death also give everyone to make up. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 77, just these 3. The sun was shining and the sky was just right. Wei Xiao slept until noon, only to feel that the whole person was soothed. Pulling out his cell phone, he looked at the FMS contacts on it. Wei Xiao automatically filtered out the messages sent by Mian, Lan Yu and the others. Then, found Zhu Ming. What's going on? Just got up, getting ready to order takeout. What? Come out, let's have a drink. Okay, where to meet? A simple appointment with Zhu Ming. Wei Xiao laid down for a while longer, and in his mind, he gave a brief run-through of the recent events. First of all, the issue of the game studio must be stepped up. Well, when the studio acquisition was taken care of, he would also have to go to his previous company at that time and poach his master Zhao Kang. Secondly, he had to take the time to invite Zhong Hai for a meal. Also, there was a trip to Maple Leaf Country. Others, such as that violet jadeite raw stone, were still being processed. Wei Xiao for a moment this realized. He had originally spent money and could also be so busy. Getting up and taking a shower, Wei Xiao changed into clean clothes. Again, he suddenly felt that he might have to find a nanny. In such a big villa, it's just the two of them living with Yi Chen. There's no one to clean the hygiene. Let's have that Yi Chen kid take a look at it later. Wei Xiao thought in her heart and walked along to the first floor. As a result, just as he reached the first floor, he saw Yi Chen lying in front of his iPad. Beside him were lined with notebooks. Seeing this scene, Wei Xiao subconsciously smiled. Yi Chen, finally, was getting the hang of it. Brother, you're awake? Yi Chen rubbed the corners of his eyes, and it was as if his entire person had grown halfway up overnight. I've already organized in the morning those game studios and their previous games. I found that the 3 you recommended to me are all quite good. In terms of the current domestic market, they are considered conscientious. It's just that there are too few topics and they've never been too famous. Wei Xiao went up and picked up those materials and notes that Yi Chen had organized. Yi Chen's records were well organized, making it clear at a glance. It had to be said that Yi Chen was a top student in his high school days. To be able to enter the university with a high score of 640 points in the college entrance exam, he really did have a couple of tricks up his sleeve. If it wasn't for the fact that the regional score was not up to par, Yi Chen would have been able to enter Kyoto University. And Yi Chen, who majored in finance, this note was also very pragmatic. It recorded some of the simple data of the several game studios that he had investigated. After all, it was only from the internet. Yi Chen's records were quite conservative. Many places were fluctuating. But even so, Wei Xiao still found it. This record of Yi Chen's almost succinctly illustrated a key issue. That was that these 3 studios, none of them were making money. To say that they weren't making money, it wasn't that they weren't making a dime, but they weren't making much. That is, break-even, or a small profit range. Compared to those cut-leak game studios in handheld games, this is simply a mud stream in the modern game studio. Brother, I actually don't really recommend the 3 you're looking at. Yi Chen immediately said when he saw that Wei Xiao had pretty much finished looking at them. These 3, they're all too pragmatic to make money. These days, if you go to invest in something that doesn't make money, you're just sitting on a deficit. At this point, Wei Xiao did not refute. After all, he studied history while Yi Chen studied finance. The other party definitely knew more than himself. What I see in them is this tenacity. Wei Xiao spoke without blushing or gasping. Like you said, something that doesn't make money these days. They're still willing to pay and work hard. That's a rare quality. But in this case, brother, what about your investment? Yi Chen frowned slightly. We can actually go find some studios that can make money and change the model a bit. That way that means we can fit in with the public and appear to be pro-people. And also earn money, wouldn't that be better? Yi Chen, we can actually change our perspective. Wei Xiao stepped forward and said to the cover of a studio on the iPad, why do you think they don't make money? Yi Chen thought carefully before saying. The mode of operation, and the pre-publicity. In addition, the selling price is too cheap, and the subsequent expansion is also relatively cheap. Although these allowed them to earn a lot of word of mouth. But the price is that they always make little profit. Wei Xiao applauded for Yi Chen. Well said, that's them then. Brother, you can't be serious? Do I look unserious? Yi Chen looked bitter and helpless. But not profitable. In the face of Yi Chen's concern, Wei Xiao was serious. Little Sam, you have to know. A studio that has a reputation. That's the endless wealth. Think of a way to contact these 3 studios. It's best to get it done for him within these few days. After Wei Xiao finished speaking, he handed the matter over to Yi Chen and left it alone. Wei Xiao actually didn't care at all if these few studios could make money afterward. It would be best if they stayed in such a break-even state. That would be conducive to his constant investments afterward. Although Yi Chen was helpless, he still silently accepted this task. Right, you'll solve the problems of living on your own in the next 2 days. Also, go to a professional platform online and find a nanny. For expenses and whatnot, just turn around and find me to report it. Before Wei Xiao left the door, she explained to Yi Chen. Yi Chen immediately said, I know, brother, you're busy. Although Yi Chen didn't know what Wei Xiao was busy with. But after going through this period of time, Yi Chen understood one thing. Although his cousin was in front of people, he did not show his face. But in fact, his own cousin was not a simple person. Otherwise, how could he know a big boss like Zheng Hai? And also after winning the lottery, he was able to invest even more quickly and tap into the second bucket of gold. The thought of Wei Xiao being so busy and visionary but cared so much about his own life matters. Yi Chen once again mustered up his energy and threw himself into the research of those studios. An hour later, in a small restaurant. I say Zhu Ming, I'll let you pick whatever you want. Why are you still saving me money? Wei Xiao sighed softly as he looked at this ordinary small restaurant. Why, we're two brothers, just feel free to order whatever you want. Zhu Ming said with a smile on his face. Just like before, it's fine. What Zhu Ming didn't say was that he was actually a little nervous in his heart. The once good brother had now jumped to become someone he might not be able to reach. Zhu Ming was a little flustered in his heart and didn't know how to face it. If he had gone to one of those high-end places, Zhu Ming might have been even more uncomfortable. Instead, he was able to accept some of these occasions and get used to some of them. Wei Xiao looked at Zhu Ming twice and guessed something in his heart. Thus, he went up and came in front of Zhu Ming. Gently patted his shoulder. Time changes, and people change. What doesn't change is the time we walked together. You and I are together, just be casual. We are brothers. Wei Xiao's words completely moved Zhu Ming. This young man who had just stepped into the midst of society had a burst of excitement in his heart. On his face, he suppressed it. Well, brother. Chapter 78, Are you really okay? The two chatted briefly before entering the box. Considering Zhu Ming's mood, Wei Xiao didn't make a big deal out of ordering food. He ordered 2 fried dishes and a hot pot. The drinks were also ordered for a few $dozen, not particularly expensive. At that time in school, this was the wine they drank, now drinking it again, but it still has the same flavor. Wei Xiao felt a burst of comfort in her heart, and Zhu Ming gradually got used to it. I say, how come you broke up with Chen Shui? Zhu Ming had long been curious about this, and at this time, the atmosphere was better. Finally, he couldn't help but say. But Wei Xiao just smiled and didn't explain. Seeing this, Zhu Ming also snorted. It's not a bad thing to split up. Say, what are you busy with now? It's only been a few months since we graduated, you're a lot different now than you were in the past. It's not that different, it's just like that. Wei Xiao laughed. What about you now, what are you busy with? Come on, don't talk about it, we're studying that laborious history department. Let's not talk about work, applying for jobs is a problem. Zhu Ming said bitterly. If I had known, I wouldn't have studied this stuff. Think about it, specialization is just a direction. It doesn't have to be this line of work. Wei Xiao excused. Right, I'm planning to acquire a few game studios recently. There's a shortage of people over here, are you interested in coming? Zhu Ming's eyes widened. Really? Why are you still involved in the game industry? Just think there's development, want to invest some. Don't worry, as long as I don't go bankrupt, you won't get laid off. Interested? As soon as Zhu Ming heard this, he hurriedly said. What are you talking about, what's broke or not? Unlucky. That's what it means anyway, just say if you're coming or not. Come on, my brother is short of people, I definitely have to come and help. Okay, just waiting for your words. Wei Xiao held his wine glass and clinked one with Zhu Ming. Taking advantage of the wine's energy to rise, Zhu Ming also asked. Say, those girls yesterday, they said something. You really invested? And made money? It's invested, earned some. This is not, ready to take the money earned, to acquire the studio it. Come on, looks like, you are really developed. Zhu Ming confirmed this and became more and more emotional. Wei Xiao, on the other hand, found an excuse and uncovered this matter. In a short while, the topic shifted to the two's college days. The wine was also very happy. At the end, Wei Xiao said to Zhu Ming, "Right, after you go back, study the game market. When the time comes, these will be left to you and my brother, as well as my master." Xu Ming was not angry when he learned that Wei Xiao had other helpers. Instead, he happily said, "That would be great, if you really want just me to help. Then I'm still a bit flustered. Alright, I believe you. You go back to your research, and when you turn around and get things done, you're coming straight over to lead the team." Wei Xiao's words also made Zhu Ming's blood surge. Which young man didn't want to make a career out of it? But most people, restricted by their environment, simply didn't have much of a chance as Zhu Ming's family situation, according to the normal trajectory. The most is to find a better job, this life. Now, Wei Xiao gave him a chance to start his own business. How could this make Zhu Ming not be excited? Right, how much money are you planning to invest? If it's not enough, I'll see if I can get some from home. Zhu Ming's words were sincere. He was worried that Wei Xiao's funds were not quite enough. At the same time, Zhu Ming also hoped that he could give more. After all, the feelings of the two were one thing, but this thing called feelings, it was also something that had to be maintained. If one relied on Wei Xiao, Zhu Ming himself would not be happy. "No need, I can take care of the money. You just have to be willing to come." Zhu Ming silently picked up his wine glass. "It's all in the wine." After meeting Zhu Ming, Wei Xiao had completed a turning around. He took a car and went straight to his previous unit. Once again, he returned to the Runnymede Food Processing Co. Wei Xiao's mindset, with the last time he came. Again, it was very different. Last time, he was still for a few $1,000s. Tossing and turning, unable to sleep at night. But this time, it was quite relaxed. Taking the elevator, he arrived at his previous office area. Wei Xiao just entered the door. He heard the noise inside. "I say, Zhao Kong, what do you mean by this? Are you saying that I'm the one who got the wrong statement?" Wang Min's sharp voice appeared in Wei Xiao's ears once again. But this time, the target had already changed from Wei Xiao. It had shifted to his master Zhao Kong. "Wang Min, this statement was handed over to me by you. Who do I look for if not you?" Zhao Kong said with a sullen face. "Then why didn't you say so at that time?" Wang Min sneered. "Now that it's been a few days, say it's my problem. When I gave it to you, it was all checked. It's just that if it goes to the director, I won't recognize it." Of course Wang Min couldn't admit it was because the statement he had previously given to Zhao Kong had led to a huge blunder at work. It was even more likely to bring about a loss of over $100,000 if not handled well. How could she dare to take such a pot? The crowd of old employees were also silent at this moment. It's not a matter of concern. As soon as Wei Xiao entered the door, what she saw. This is the light. But for this result. Wei Xiao was not only not angry, but also a little happy. Well, although looking forward to his master being fired. It didn't seem like a good thing. But Wei Xiao was just happy. What's going on here? Wei Xiao walked over to Zhao Kong with a puzzled look on his face. The crowd of employees, seeing the appearance of Wei Xiao, a departing employee. They also frowned. Yo, isn't this our entrepreneur? What, succeeded in business and came to pick up his own master? Wang Min said in his usual eerie manner. Wei Xiao looked at the other party with a smile. I'm here to pick up my master at my place. But what's that got to do with you? Salty carrot? Wei Xiao's words caused the office area, which had just been very rowdy. It instantly quieted down. It wasn't just that Wei Xiao had mocked Wang Min. More importantly, Wei Xiao actually admitted it. Heh, just you? You can also be the boss? Wang Min was naturally resentful at being mocked. So subconsciously, he retorted back. But looking at Wei Xiao's emboldened appearance, Wang Min's heart was thumping. This kid won't really be the boss, right? As soon as this thought appeared, it was erased by Wang Min. How could it be, just with him? Wei Xiao didn't continue to ignore Wang Min, but instead looked at his master. Master, my site is already preparing. It's estimated that in a few days, it will be launched soon. Look, if you're not doing well here, do you want to come to me? I'll give you a team, and you can lead it however you want. What do you think, master? Wei Xiao said to Zhao Kong with a sincere face. But Zhao Kong, who had just argued with Wang Min. At this moment, he looked at this little disciple of his. Yet, he was once again dumbfounded. Wei Xiao, are you really alright? Chapter 79 Digging Up the Wall. Wei Xiao was a person who held grudges, but remembered favors even more. For those who were kind to him, Wei Xiao would always keep it in his heart. For example, Zhao Kong. When he first joined the company, Zhao Kong had always been very protective of him. Working hard, he had brought him all the way out of the division. That was why Wei Xiao cared so much and even came directly to the company. And Zhao Kong made this suggestion face to face. However, in Zhao Kang's opinion, it was not like that. Compared to Yi Chen, Zhu Ming, and the other, Zhao Kong was half clear about Wei Xiao's deeds. Looking at the disciple who used to keep a low profile as a human being. At this moment, he was talking about a company. A mouthful of a team. Zhao Kong really felt that something might have gone wrong with Wei Xiao. Let's put it this way, Wei Xiao. Why don't we talk when I turn around and get off work? Zhao Kong looked around and knew that this wasn't the place to talk either. He then prepared to persuade Wei Xiao away first, and then talk alone later. But Wei Xiao was determined to come and take someone away today. He had a tight schedule, half a month, the company had to be launched. Money, too, must be spent. Wei Xiao had his eye on 3 studios. In his opinion, Yi Chen took one, and Master Zhao Kong took one. The remaining one, then find someone else. This was something Wei Xiao had thought about a long time ago, but it was Zhu Ming's appearance that was considered an accident. This was just right, all of them were arranged. So, without waiting for Zhao Kong to continue persuading, Wei Xiao then directly said. No need, just say it here. I invested in some sunset stocks before. Now that they're all up, I've made some money. I came to talk to you, Master, about this matter. As long as you're willing to come, the treatment is all from the best. If you can, I hope you can resign now and come with me. Good to prepare early for what's next. Wei Xiao said, seeing the Zhao Kong man was already dumbfounded. Taking out the killing move he had prepared long ago. Taking out his cell phone, he tapped on consumption treasure. Then, Wei Xiao placed the phone in front of Zhao Kang's eyes. Master, this is my starting capital. If you don't believe me, you can take a closer look. Zhao Kong froze for a moment. He then saw Wei Xiao place his cell phone in front of his eyes. Zhao Kong, who was already very shocked and incredibly confused. Looking at the screen of the cell phone, the series of 0 Zhao Kong counted several times before finally distinguishing how much money that was. Wei Xiao. Zhao Kong muttered under his breath. Wei Xiao, however, had already retrieved his cell phone. Master, I am really hoping that you can come and help me. Think about it, I'll wait for you downstairs. I hope you won't make me wait too long either. I've been really busy lately. After saying that, Wei Xiao left without looking back. In fact, Wei Xiao had told Zhao Kong about this matter a long time ago. When Wei Xiao first left his job, he had told Zhao Kong he would open his own company in the future. But Zhao Kong didn't believe it at the time. So Wei Xiao didn't intend to, either, explain this matter over and over again. After all, he was really busy. And there were some things that were troublesome to explain. This time, Wei Xiao had made up his mind to take Zhao Kong away. Showing the other party the balance was also something Wei Xiao had prepared for a long time ago. If showing Zhao Kong his sincerity in this manner was still not enough to impress the other party, then Wei Xiao would wait until after the company was established. He would invite Zhao Kong once more. This was his response to Zhao Kang's former affection. After Wei Xiao left, the entire work area, it all fell into a deathly silence. Wang Min didn't know what Wei Xiao had shown Zhao Kong. But Wang Min was able to look at Zhao Kang's face. See the look of confusion and shock that could not be recovered for a long time. After a long time, it was still an employee who had a good relationship with Zhao Kong. Took the lead and spoke. Old Zhao, what did Wei Xiao show you? The entire work area was truly curious at this point. It couldn't be helped, who let Wei Xiao make that move just now? It really was that much of a likeness. At this moment, even Wang Min, who was most reluctant to believe it. After seeing Wei Xiao's statement, as well as Zhao Kang's reaction, all of them couldn't help but give birth to a great doubt. That kid, where in the world did he get the money, and really opened a company. However, Zhao Kong, who was one of the parties involved, did not respond. Instead, he sat down on the office chair and took a sip of tea. Pressure shock. Associated with the last time, Wei Xiao's words when he left. Plus this time, the other party's reaction. There was also that series of zeros. Zhao Kong was really moved. This job is nothing more than a job. It was just a job to support a family. Zhao Kong couldn't talk about loving it, nor did he have much aversion to it. Or rather, he used to be a bit disgusted, but now he had long gotten used to it. However, Wei Xiao's attitude just now. It was something that really touched him. He was able to from Wei Xiao's attitude. He could feel Wei Xiao's sincerity. Zhao Kong hadn't thought about it either. The disciple who once had to ask himself about everything before he dared to do it, now he was actually sitting on such a fortune. And then by association, this job that he is in now. For a while, a violent conflict appeared in Zhao Kang's heart. He was no longer young, in his 30s and running into his 4th year. The family is still harmonious, his wife is a full-time mom. A family, all rely on him alone to support. The child will soon be in junior high school. As the child's age grows, Zhao Kang's salary is getting stretched. And now, Wei Xiao has given him a choice. A choice that, no matter how Zhao Kong seemed to go about it, he couldn't refuse. After a few minutes, Zhao Kong took a deep breath. Then, he slowly got up and walked towards the director's office. An entire work area of people, after seeing Zhao Kang's actions. For a moment, they were all dumbfounded. Today's events were simply too much beyond their understanding. A former wage earner, leaping to become a boss? And really came and scooped up his former master? Wang Min's face was stagnant, his eyes full of confusion. A week ago, the words he angrily sprayed at Wei Xiao were like a flash in front of his eyes. Now looking at it again, it was actually a present-day retribution? Who is he to do that? Wang Min kept repeating in his heart, and the look of cynicism in his eyes grew stronger and stronger. A few minutes later, Zhao Kong left the director's office and silently packed up his things. The world was just so marvelous. One moment, a colleague who was still arguing with himself about problems at work. The next second, they were scooped up by someone who had dug up their front feet and scooped them up. Many people had an unreal feeling. Wang Min looked at Zhao Kong, who was packing up his things. Suddenly said grimly, "Following that kid, I'm only afraid that I won't even have a stable job by then." Zhao Kong, who was packing up, his movements were violently fixed. He made this decision, although it seemed to be very quick. However, it was also after several considerations. If he wasn't clear about Wei Xiao's character and saw the series of zeros, there was no way in a million that he would have decided so. Moreover, Zhao Kang's family needed a better environment, not for his own sake. Rather, it was for the sake of the child. But now, he hadn't even gone to work himself. Just to hear such vicious words from Wang Min. This simply poked Zhao Kang's dead center. This man who had been honest for half of his life and had never been red-faced with anyone. Suddenly putting down the work at hand, he looked up at Wang Min. In his eyes, he was filled with endless anger. "You think you're such a good thing? Sleeping with so many people in the company, putting so many green hats on your husband behind his back. You think you're just honorable." In a flash, the air pressure in the work area was on the verge of freezing.